All right, Joel. The AEW locker room, I mean, the lower mid card, we're ready for Moxley and his crew to show up in the pickup truck. They waited 2 hours. Eventually, the pickup truck showed up. Marina Shafir got out, but the others were not in the pickup truck. They blindsided Garcia and Private Party in the ring, and then poor Chuck Taylor got dragged to the ring by John Moxley, who Shivani speculated had been disguised and hiding out backstage the whole show. Maybe not, but in any case, they beat him down, and poor Chuck Taylor was sacrificed. His head in a chair. Claudio stomped on it, so he was already. Excalibur noted that he was already forced into retirement with early injuries and was working backstage as a producer, but another victim of John Moxley. What's your take on the state of this, ominous Moxley unnamed faction at this point, and especially obviously this week's developments?
Yeah, they haven't said if this is the Blackpool Combat Club. That's not officially the name. This has just kind of been the John Moxley takeover, and it's been branded as such on social media when they put out those match graphics that says John Moxley will be there. Beware that he's coming to the building. So this has been the new gimmick, is that he's going to come out there and take out somebody to assert his dominance. But what is just prevalent throughout the whole show is that there's just a serious lack of main event baby faces on this show, or real big time stars on the babyface side. Is that, as you mentioned, Wade, is that the people standing outside are, the people defending AEW, but it's really just your lower mid card guys. With the absence of Bryan Danielson, Darby Allin, you don't have Swerve Strickland on this show. Will Ospreay is selling some injuries. And so it's just overwhelming. When you look top to bottom on the show, it's just so heel dominated at this point. And so you just don't have that balance of both there. And without having those big names there, it's just like, man, they're really grabbing at straws of trying to find guys to defend AEW and defend against what John Moxley's doing.
Yeah, Anthony B just commented in the chat, yes, no main event baby faces makes it feel meh.
Definitely.
I know that they're, big on Danny Garcia right now and want him to step up. They're telling a story of Orange Cassidy, who's been a featured babyface a lot and had, title reigns and big time matches and big time wins. So I think they think that's enough for right now while everybody else is occupied with other things, but I don't think it's enough. I defend it a little. I defend it partially with a caveat, which is I think they want to build Moxley's crew up over time, plowing through some people. So it's like, we'll plow through Dark Order, we'll plow through, just like non-top people until we get to Full Gear or whatever, when we're going to bring top people in. The problem is the storyline sort of calls for top people to step up sooner. I mean, what are they waiting for? Like, right. Jeff Jarrett is really your 2024 locker room leader of a challenger brand. I mean, it's just, I don't know that that's going to inspire people to think, yeah, this is a top level storyline. So that is a problem at this point. And I think basically it's a problem that they can get past and be okay, but they have to move through it swiftly, which is plow through everybody else and get to some top people. What do you think they're doing with the Young Bucks? A big stress put on before the main event. Garcia's wearing the AEW t-shirt. The Young Bucks are in it for themselves. Is this the beginning of a journey so that the Bucks end up being baby faces again? Does that work for you?
Yeah, I mean, they just really haven't tipped their hand as far as where the Young Bucks are going with all of this, that they just kind of are, they're just allowing this stuff to happen, that they're just kind of stepping into the background. So certainly not asserting their authority, that they're just kind of doing their own thing right now. And they have the stuff against Private Party, but I mean, at this point, I mean, they need some bigger name baby faces on this show. And I think it would do them good to have somebody turn at some point. I mean, sure, you could see them maybe planting the seeds for the Young Bucks, not being happy, or, allowing these things to happen. And then maybe, wanting to step up at some point saying, hey, this is our show, and then maybe defending AEW's honor. But to this point, they haven't really gone, they've been more agnostic to the situation right now. But certainly it would benefit to have some more named people, defending AEW's honor with a number of people that are out right now.
Yeah, I'm in no way convinced this is a way to get like the Bucks and Jack Perry to turn babyface. It seems absurd in a way.
Mm.
It's more me just kind of looking at how much they've been lectured and looked down upon by other babyfaces for not stepping up. But in a way, it just could be a way to get them more heel heat. They don't align with Moxley, but fans look down at them for not stepping up when they were needed.
Mm-hmm.
So is Orange Cassidy and Adam Garcia? They're high on them, and that's who they're
Sure.
setting up initially, and then Darby Allin too. Are they? In fact, Stephanie Chase joining us. Hello, Stephanie, in the chat, saying it feels right now Garcia is leading a job squad until Cassidy and Darby inevitably step up, but it's so telegraphed it makes it hard to take Garcia, etc., seriously. I mean, they want us to see Garcia as a top guy or a borderline top guy right now, and that this is sort of his way to stand up and show to assert himself as a locker room leader. And so I think in a way they're saying, all right, we just re-signed the guy. We think he's got great talent. Everybody loves him backstage. We're gonna put him in a position to stand up to Moxley, and that's going to earn him kind of, for lack of a better term, street cred points for being the guy who stepped up right away and was fearless in the face of Moxley. And then obviously they're telling a short story arc with Orange Cassidy being the reluctant guy who will step up next, and then Darby comes back at some point. I think those are three good names. I can see AEW's brain trust just kind of Tony Khan mainly saying, yeah, that's enough for us to walk our way through this. Like Zach Barber says in the chat, so we should stop every other storyline and point everyone at Moxley. Moxley literally threatened everybody. Everybody should be standing up, and they're clearly setting up Orange Cassidy. So I'm largely in agreement with Zach. The only pushback is it wouldn't make sense for everyone to stop what they're doing and go after Moxley in a storytelling way. It's not feasible for a TV show. They need to have other feuds and other top matches and world champs, and Will Ospreay's in the hospital. So, I mean, they've kind of explained his absence a little bit. Kenny Omega's not back from injury, so they're explaining that a little bit. Swerve Strickland, obviously preoccupied elsewhere. So a lot of the top names, there's sort of an explanation for why they haven't stepped up yet, and I want to give them credit for that. It's not like Ospreay's just standing out there doing his segment and then leaving and crossing paths with Moxley driving up in a pickup truck, and Ospreay doesn't care. That would be dumb, especially if we see him as, maybe the top babyface in the company right now.
Right.
The problem that I push back on Zach is this storyline calls for everybody to stop what they're doing and confront Moxley because he tried to murder Bryan Danielson. I mean, it's like they did it and they can't own it. They won't talk about it. They talk around it. This week they didn't talk about it on Collision in the introduction. Shivani's sitting there, talking about Moxley, but he won't say what he did. It's sort of, implied, but it's sort of, they're showing, I think, a little embarrassment, whether they want to admit it or not, that it's hard to talk about that and also go, he works for us and we just let him in the building. So there's a lot going on here. So my only pushback to Zach, Joel, would be if you do a storyline this intense with Moxley trying to kill Danielson, ending his career, and making the threats he's making, there are going to be people, Zach, who think, wait a second, why is it the B team, starting off and everyone else is kind of, well, we'll get to this Moxley threat when we're done with our other stuff. Like, this seems like everyone should drop what they're doing and face it. So, Joel, your thoughts on that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's when you do this type of big storyline, this overarching, serial storyline that they're doing, you needed to have more things ready for them, more stuff ready for Moxley, because obviously they're wanting to hold off Darby Allin at this point because that's going to be a bigger match down the road. But and you need to fill out the card, and so there needs to be other things going on. You need to have other segments happening. But certainly, when a guy's threatening the company and he tried to murder Bryan Danielson not once but twice on pay-per-view, and they've been just kind of avoiding it, talking about it on television. There's been the avoidance of what Moxley is doing by a higher authority. You would like to see like a Tony Khan getting involved, trying to say, not necessarily having him as an on-air television character per se, but having some sort of consequences for what's going on with Jon Moxley. I mean, it's as extreme as it gets, and it's just kind of playing out, and they're just allowing these lower mid-card guys to stand out in the parking lot and try and fend them off. Is there any more? It just shows like a lack of infrastructure in AEW in a television sense as to in the storyline sense, not really doing anything about Jon Moxley and his team interfering and basically trying to murder these people. And now they've, taken out somebody who's in a backstage role. And it's kind of like, when is somebody going to step up? And I think that is part of the story, and definitely how the Young Bucks and the Elite are playing into this. Like we said, that at this point they've been more just agnostic as they're focusing on themselves. But somebody is going to need to come into this because Orange Cassidy is a good opponent for Jon Moxley, but it just doesn't feel like a huge opponent at this point, because Orange Cassidy, kind of ebbs and flows, where they, kind of move him up the card a little bit, then he kind of moves down, and then he, he's not always involved in the most important stuff. And so again, they're trying to heat him up again, because he is, one of Tony Khan's favorites to defend, to be one of the quote unquote AEW originals, to go up against Moxley. And so he's a good opponent, but it just feels like, with the strength of this storyline, that you would have liked to have had somebody who's really ready made, to go up against Moxley in his first pay-per-view defense.
Okay. Another comment here. Chat room's active. I got to scroll up to get, back to it here. Okay, so I covered that. Sorry, everybody. Here's one from Keith Birdie, who says, I don't think it looks great that these 4 heels are smarter, more cunning, and more vicious than 16 baby faces. I guess the Marina Shafir trick. I don't know. I thought that was pretty clever of them to be like, we're on our way in a pickup truck, and they wait outside. I don't think that made them look too bad. And then Anthony B says, yeah, I'm sorry. Everything just feels low to mid card right now. Sorry, not saying it couldn't get better. It probably will, but for now, it's all low to mid card. And then Stephanie Chase added, I find the plot holes glaring when you open the show with Briscoe front and center, waiting on Mox, but then he has a match with Jericho, and that seems to exist in a universe without Moxley's threat. There is the issue of the Moxley's threat being something that, Excalibur last week's talking about in hushed tones. This is like, everything has changed. Everything has changed. Mm-hmm. But then people just go about their business, like it's like if in the middle of the January 6th attempt to overthrow election results, you also had just some representatives try to pass a bill for, appropriations for some bridge project. Like, it would just be weird, wait, there's people storming the building, and now you suddenly are like, yeah, but we're just going to do our business. That's kind of what it feels like when Moxley is using this very the ominous big picture language of, things can't be the same. And I mean, we'll get into the message in a minute. I want to dissect the message with you in a few minutes too, about, Moxley so far, in a more macro character mission statement sense. But there is something about the show just going on that doesn't match quite the tone of how severe not only Moxley is talking, but the mid-card baby faces are reacting, and then the tone of the announcers. So how do you just go about business otherwise? That it's the problem when you try to do something so big with this big arc to it and this feeling of dread, and it's the biggest thing that's ever happened. But by the way, we've got this women's match, we got this tag match, and we got a trios match, and we have a squash match, and it's like it's hard to shift gears. For me, I think for viewers to, take it as seriously as they ought to, it diminishes the gravity of everything.
And everything else just feels really small in comparison. I thought actually tonight's crowd was pretty decent at times. But overall, just everything just feels so much smaller in comparison, because the whole show, you are just waiting for Jon Moxley and his crew to come out there and cut their angle, because that just feels like the biggest thing. And everything else right now just feels like it's so far beneath that. And I don't think that's good for your overall show. You want a lot of other things to feel important. And, AEW has been really trying to find what is that big storyline, that big hook that's going to sustain viewers from week to week. And, so I applaud them for trying another attempt. But, as I talked about on my show with Greg Canner, is that at this point, I think myself and a lot of regular AEW viewers just have a lack of confidence as to, how this is going to play out and what the payoff is going to be, because we did see another really big angle being cut before with the Elite taking out Tony Khan, and that just more or less fizzled out. There's still the Young Bucks are playing the EVP characters on television and have some level of authority that kind of wavers back and forth depending on, how they're booked from week to week. But it just, they've really struggled to follow up on these really big ideas. And until we can see them do that, I think everyone's going to hold their breath to see what happens.
Yeah. Okay, there's a lot of good chat room comments going on. I want to respond to more of those. I want to get into other topics from tonight's show. Kyle Fletcher had a kind of a centerpiece promo about Will Ospreay and more, just more developments. So, and hype for next week's, Halloween themed Dynamite. So let's pause, introduce ourselves. We also have some video callers, and we'll check the mailbag too. This is a Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show following the Wednesday, October 23rd, 2024 episode of AEW Dynamite. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, the editor, publisher, and founder of the Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter and the website PWTorch.com. I cover with a written report Dynamite, Raw, and SmackDown everybody Wednesday and Friday, along with pay-per-views and PLEs from AEW and WWE. We have news updates, ratings reports, editorials, special features, flashback articles, 30 years ago Raw reports, which are a blast. I forgot about that. There was a Doink sidekick name. Well, I knew there was Dink, but I forgot about Wink. He was in our 30 years ago Raw flashback that I posted earlier today. Raw was very.
I am not familiar with Wink.
Yeah. I don't have many memories of him. Any memories of him, but so anyway, there's fun stuff up on the website, and we encourage you to check it out every day. Make it part of your daily schedule. Create a tab, create a bookmark. There's exclusive content just about every day, and then the basics we cover too. Try to keep you up on the news. So that's PWTorch.com. Also, I am the host of podcasts, free ones and VIP exclusive podcasts. Free ones include our post shows following Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown, like this one, and also the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast flagship. The flagship episode yesterday featured Rich Fan, Pro Wrestling Torch columnist, joining me for an in-depth discussion of a lot of big topics in pro wrestling this week. We focused initially on Jacob Fatu and Braun Breaker, and kind of fun discussion about exploring their upside and their potential as top stars, their strengths, their weaknesses, at what pace they might rise further. So it was just a really good in-depth discussion on that. And then we got into a bunch of other topics, WWE, AEW, and otherwise. If you are not a subscriber to the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast, that is only available in podcast format. I know we do live stream our post shows on YouTube, but the podcast is our Blue Logo show, and that is only an audio version. Search Wade Keller in your podcast app and subscribe if you haven't yet. And when the logos pop up when you search Wade Keller, you can search in Spotify, you can search in Apple Podcasts, or any other iOS or Android app. You'll see two logos pop up. The blue logo is our regular podcast. That includes pay-per-view previews, specials, flashbacks, interviews, and more. Also, you'll see the red logo pop up. Subscribe to that so you can get the audio podcast version of our post shows here, if that works better for you than joining us live on YouTube. Also, I do a bunch of VIP shows. If you're not a VIP member, you can check out the full lineup of VIP exclusive podcasts, which are also compatible with Spotify, Patreon, Apple Podcasts, and many other podcast apps on iOS and Android. And also with the full VIP membership, you unlock over 35 years of archives of Pro Wrestling Torch newsletters and hundreds of retro radio shows from the 90s, 20 plus years of podcasts and more, and new exclusive content daily. Full details at pwtorch.com/govip. All right, we are here to talk Dynamite tonight, and the other face you see on YouTube, the other voice you hear on the podcast side of things is Joel Dehnel. He is a PWTorch.com contributor for many years. He is the host of the All Elite Conversation Club, which is part of our free podcast series, our third podcast feed. We got the red and blue logo shows, Wade Keller post shows and podcasts, and then the PW Torch Daily Cast lineup with a different show each day of the week, different host, different theme. Search PW Torch and subscribe for free to that. VIP members get an ad-free version of all those shows I just talked about on the VIP podcast feed, which with the full VIP membership is customizable by show type and different clusters of shows. Joel, welcome back. It's been a little bit longer than usual between visits. You've been busy. Good to have you back.
It's great to be back, Wade. Newly married, coming back from honeymoon, had an awesome time. It's spooky season. It's the best time of year to be in Minnesota. I love October. It is the best month here. It is absolutely gorgeous.
Yep.
So I'm doing great, Wade. I was very excited when you sent me a message to come on the show today.
Excellent. Yes. More excited than you were to talk Timberwolves after their terrible start last night, man. Well, they cut it to to 4?
Yeah, they got back into it, but I mean, man, Julius Randle didn't play a lot of the preseason, and then putting him on Anthony Davis, who just played like it was the NBA Finals.
Yeah, he had a chip on his shoulder. Yeah, and I don't blame him. You know, he wanted the Defensive Player of the Year. Gobert got it. You know, and he's there. I mean, all due respect to LeBron James, I mean, he's their star right now. At least against the Wolves, he is, and. He was motivated. It was fun to see. I don't, bring it on.
Good for them.
I mean, yep. I mean, the Wolves have a ton of talent. I'm not worried about him long term. And I'm heard enough good things about Julius Randle. I didn't see a lot of his games with the Knicks, but I've heard enough good things from people I respect to not be as down on him as you are. But I take what you say seriously, that maybe effort will be an issue. But he wants to play for the Wolves. I mean, he loves our coach. He's really loved Minnesota, and I just think it's going to be hard to dog it if you're playing with Anthony Edwards, who's going to be like, "Come on, let's play." I don't know. I have hope. I'm not. We got off to a rough start last year, and then we went 1-2, and then we won 16 out of 18. So hoping for more of that.
Yeah, no, I'm not doom and gloom totally on the future, but it is something to watch with Julius Randle, because I did watch a fair amount of Knicks games. Ever since Tibbs went over there, I always follow the former Wolves just to see how they do in other places, and that's always been an issue for him. But Dante DiVincenzo, very excited to have him on the roster, playing next to Anthony Edwards. I think that he's going to be a great addition. But man, I will miss Cat. Everyone was critical of him, me included. But man, I'm interested to see how he does in the New York media. If things do not go well, like they did not yesterday, that I do fear for the guy, but I truly wish him all the best.
He drove me nuts. There were times I absolutely wanted him traded. I went, it was a roller coaster ride with him, because there's an immaturity to his game and an inconsistency. But there was also, he's just such a genuinely nice guy. And when he sinks 3-point shots, and when he was playing at his best and not complaining to referees and making really dumb fouls, which I think he'll do the rest of his career. I think if he had the basketball IQ and body control not to do it, he would have stopped by now, and especially in big playoff games, and he didn't last year. So he's going to drive Knicks fans nuts, but they're going to be on the same roller coaster ride as us. They're going to drive him nuts, but he's also just so gifted and one of the best shooters in the league, and one of the best big men in the league, and he can play defense. I mean, he's an amazing player. So I'm like you. I've been watching the Knicks games, even the preseason game against us, and then last night's doubleheader. It's like I'm rooting for him almost more. Well, I was always rooting for him on the Wolves, but even though I rooted at times for him to be traded. And I understand the finances made it smart to do it. I mean, it's just we kind of had to for long-term for Anthony Edwards, and that doesn't get talked about a lot because it's more long-term nuanced stuff that the national media is probably not super into. But I'm like, I don't want him to be the subject of attacked by the New York media and New York fans. You want to see him do well, especially because the Knicks are in the East. So just bring him on, and we'll meet you in the finals. Although Boston's going to have a lot to say about that. So.
Boston will have plenty to say about that. But I wish him all the best. I hope he does well for the Knicks, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
All right. Our buzzer went off. We talked our full non-wrestling allotment already. So we will move to back to AEW Dynamite, and we will, you know what? I know we got more chat comments. I flagged some of them. If somebody really wants to get their comment on the show, you can always super chat. That absolutely brings you to the front of the line, and we always give attention to that. We appreciate your support when you do that. But I don't want to leave our video callers on hold. I do want to remind you, if you are live streaming our show and you're a VIP member or a Patreon supporter, you can find the link to become a video caller in my TV report or on the Patreon page. In the Dynamite report tonight, at the top and bottom, there's a link. You can click on that. It'll bring you into the waiting room. And on Patreon, we include the link too. So it is just something for our supporters, our VIP members. We don't open it up for everybody. And we invite you to do that if you're watching us live tonight. And you can also do that on future shows if it fits your schedule to join us live. All right. So let's go to, it's been a while. We'll go to the heel Mark and bring him on first to let him steer things before we hit all the topics on Dynamite first. Mark, welcome.
Hi, guys.
Good to see you.
Hey, Mark.
I had to do it. Hi, guys.
Yes, new ROH champion, Chris Jericho.
I know. I'm happy that he's a champion. I love Jericho, man. I think I'm going to go to Learning Tree University instead of Chase U. So, the Moxley opening video, that was just, I'm a huge Moxley fan. I have been since he was in CZW. But I think you guys kind of really touched a lot on it. But I'm just really kind of curious because, like you guys said, that's like the main draw for AEW right now is, okay, what's going to happen with Moxley? And then there's just some filler stuff that's going on. And that's like, I'm waiting for the Kyle Fletcher, Will Ospreay to say thing. I think that's going to blow up into something big.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of like, do you feel the Will Ospreay, Kyle Fletcher will be like a good sideshow to the Moxley thing?
Yeah. I mean, it's a good opening here you gave us, Mark, to talk about Fletcher's promo. I liked it. I think it's a bad. I'll jump to the end. I think it's a bad idea to cut that hair. I thought that hair was really distinct. And
Totally.
When he took out the razor and just shaved his head off, I'm like, there's plenty of bald guys and guys with short haircuts. My God, that's like your signature look, and it's going to take a year to grow that back or close to it. So, I mean, Garcia.
At least he's not copying me.
Yeah, you got a distinct look this week. So, but I thought.
Yeah, I didn't wear a hat this week. I was like, no, let's show off my hair.
Yeah, cool, good. So, I thought that Fletcher did really well on his promo. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was actually very good. I thought he hit a lot of lines, delivered a message. I thought the look in his eyes felt believable. I think there's a lot of amateur hour promos on Dynamite. I don't call everybody out for them because I think it's sort of self-evident. A lot of them aren't real polished talking, and there's some kind of bad acting and unconvincing performances. Not just lower card people. I mean, I think there's some top people who don't deliver as well as Kyle Fletcher did tonight. Joel, what'd you think of his work? And then also Mark's larger question about that being a good, kind of co-top storyline along with the Moxley story.
Yeah, I think it's a great another storyline. So they have some other good stuff that's going on other than just the big Moxley story where they have the MJF Adam Cole thing, where right now you just don't have MJF available to be in the building, and like you said, he will not be there until Full Gear. So it's just you're kind of seeing just the one side from Adam Cole, which we'll talk more about later. But I think that the stuff between Ospreay and Fletcher is great stuff right now. I think that Fletcher, is somebody that we've talked about as kind of one of those future pillars, one of those guys who's young, who can be develop into one of those future main eventers for AEW. And certainly they've gotten him on the right path next to Don Callis. And I'm glad to see that Don Callis is back more into a prominent position after he's been kind of slid back into the background. Yeah. At times, and I'm glad that they didn't have much of Don Callis this week, and they just allowed Kyle Fletcher to develop more of that heel character. And I thought that he really did a very good job. It wasn't the best promo ever, but man, for what they were trying to do, I thought mission accomplished. He shaving the head is definitely. It's a choice, where he's trying to show that his whole thing is that he is not like Will Ospreay. So Ospreay has had kind of the hair that's kind of been a signature part of his look. And so Kyle Fletcher wants to do something that's dramatically different and show that he's unhinged right now. But certainly I agree with you, Wade, that it was a unique look. And I really liked the way that he came out last week. I said it was hard to find the words to say it, but certainly he looked like, he looked like kind of one of those like young, like arrogant pop star guys who's on the rise. And now that he has the shaved head, he's gonna look a lot more like Daniel Garcia, moving forward. And certainly, Daniel Garcia has struggled to find his footing. But I just thought that Kyle Fletcher had a good explanation going through their history, giving people more of that background. They had a really nice promo for people who are not familiar with what the stuff that they did prior to AEW. So giving them that background of the Aussie Open with New Japan and outside of that as well. The fan reaction to Fletcher was really good. I Jesse Ramen Doodle brings up the STFU chant. Was really good. He got good heat throughout his promo. The turn was kind of sudden, because they were very much friends, but I thought he really made up for it with the explanation, and it's certainly a match that I'm very excited to see. He called out Will Ospreay for a match for next week. We didn't get a graphic for that as they're filling up stuff for the Fright Night, but that seems to be one of the major matches that they could put on the Full Gear pay-per-view.
Yeah, Fletcher just saying, before you got here, I was the next Will Ospreay. You were in New Japan doing your thing. After Kenny left, you were the top foreigner there, and then I was going to be the next Will Ospreay here in AEW, and then you showed up, and everyone just, the focus went to you. Well, it's a good story. It's a good kind of villain origin story. And Don Callis made me realize, you want Callis to be the one feeding him the information, and it fits the story we've watched with our own eyes that Callis was in his ear, and Fletcher comes across as somebody to be influenced by somebody with Don Callis's history and his manipulation and conniving or whatever, and so it's a believable story. Will is so likable, even if people are kind of like, no, Kyle, we liked you. Now, well, you chose to be with Callis. Now we're going to cheer on Ospreay. I think they set it up nicely. There's something else I was going to bring up about Fletcher a few minutes ago that I forgot about, but yeah, it was a good performance, and you want to see if you're AEW, you want wrestlers on journeys and younger wrestlers who don't just seem kind of indie-rific or living on their past laurels, and Kyle Fletcher is one of them. He's somebody who comes across as, this is a guy who maybe WWE would be pushing right now if they had him, and you want wrestlers who come across that way, and a lot of AEW wrestlers who get pushed. I mean, I think fair or unfair, some casual viewers be like, well, if WWE doesn't want them, and that's why AEW is pushing them this hard. You want to have people who just jump out to the more casual fans who AEW is trying to attract. Hey, this is somebody who we want and could be successful there, but they're choosing to be here, and he comes across that way. You mentioned the STFU chant. That is what I was going to bring up, not the STFU chant, but in general. One thing that stood out to me with Fletcher is that when the crowd said, wrap it up, he didn't get thrown off. And I mean, he reacted to it, but he goes, I got all the TV time I want, or Callis got me all the TV time, or something like that. And he played into it, but it didn't throw him off. He used it to give a boost. It boosted his energy, and it didn't throw him off.
I personally thought it was brilliant.
Yeah, because when you're cutting your first long-form live national cable promo as a heel in a major storyline, and that's basically where he is, you got to come across sure-footed, and the audience could have thrown him off. And then after that, he got the, shut the F up chant, and it worked. It worked also in the sense that it felt like genuine heat, not you're boring us. So yeah. All right, Mark, back to you.
I honestly, I was laughing so hard. I thought it was great. I love the heels, but I just want your opinion on this, because as Fletcher was coming out with like the white coat and the sunglasses and everything, I was talking to my buddies. I was like, dude, does anybody else get like a wannabe HBK vibe when he first, super kicked Marty Jannetty? That's what it looked like to me when he was coming out. He kind of looked like the old HBK, or trying to be with the glasses and everything. And I wanted your guys' thoughts on it, because that's the vibe I was getting.
Yeah. One thing I'll add, Mark, as you are about to pivot to another topic, Lady B in the chat says, Kyle also looks the part. He looks like a star, incredible. He comes across a notch above the mid-card guys who are part of the Moxley stuff. And that is, that's what I was getting at. It's an intangible. It's hard to quantify. You can't really create it, but there is something there. And if you're AEW, you want to have your Braun Breaker. You want to have your Jacob Fatu. You want to have the person who hasn't been around in the national spotlight for 10 years, with all due respect to Moxley, or 20 years like Jericho, or who seems like his better days are behind him, like maybe it's a case with Kenny Omega. We'll see how he looks when he comes back. You want to have the people that there's a reason Rich and I led with a long conversation about Jacob Fatu and Braun Breaker, because it's exciting when there's stars on the rise. I think that's one of the most exciting things about watching wrestling, is seeing wrestlers who look like that they deserve a push, they're getting a push, and now you want to see how they do. And non-fans and outsiders don't really understand how it works. Like, can a promoter just pick somebody and give them wins and they are over? That's not how it works. And so watching somebody blossom is a big part of it. Mark, before I go back to you, because I do promise super chatters that I will give them attention, and it is on this topic. First of all, just thanks to Jure for a super chat with no comments. Appreciate the support. And then, Dre added afterwards. AEW fans are starting to annoy me a bit. I can't even enjoy the show or listen to what Kyle Fletcher had to say because the crowd was trying to be the show. So do you, Joel, agree with that? Because we had some pushback in the chat otherwise. Glenn B said, I can't be the only one who thought the STFU chant wasn't due to being actual heel heat, but more get out of that ring. I like Fletcher, but I didn't like this at all. But then SF Niners fan 23 said, I think it would have gotten a boring chant if that was the case. And then Ramen Noodle, I'll close with this, added, I actually agree with Glenn. It didn't work for me, but honestly, I miss a whole story about Ospreay leaving Japan and Bigfooting him. And that, was a key part of it. So, Joel, what do you think about the kind of back and forth there with different opinions?
Yeah, I mean, the way that it came off to me was that it was just heel heat. I mean, sure, the promo did go on for a while. They gave him time to get his whole explanation in there, get over his character, but that it never occurred to me that it was just them wanting him to get out of the ring. That's right. If it was something that they just didn't, if it was boring, that would probably be more likely to chant than STFU. I mean, Will Ospreay is the most over guy on the show, and he's the one who took him out, and so now he's playing up the heel character, and so I think that this worked. Establishing him as a big star. I'm seeing a lot in the comments that Kyle Fletcher, he had that look of kind of that the Gen Z D-bag, and you were mentioning, Mark, that it said, it kind of a throwback to Shawn Michaels, and definitely how it came off to me was, he was trying to be kind of that current, like I said, like a pop star of some sort. One of the biggest superstars right now is Sabrina Carpenter. And one of the songs that she has, I forget which song it is, but she talks about a guy coming out in the white jacket with the cool hair. And that was the first thing that came to my mind, is that relevancy of the biggest thing, that he's kind of almost playing into that, because I mean, she right now is the biggest star.
Yep. I'll bring up a couple comments that you're referencing there, Joel, and read it for our audio-only listeners. Glenn B says, he does look and work like a star for sure. My comment is no hate to him. I just didn't really like this and definitely didn't see it as a star-making promo. I think I have AEW PTSD. And then Ramen Noodle says he looks worthy standing next to Takeshita as well. He's the only guy ever in the Don Callis family who does. I think that's a major factor. I like how different he is in Takeshita too. In the group, I don't. It's not clear who the alpha is between the two of them, which is fine. And now we've got a tag team. With Cage and Archer is just very separate. Doing their own thing. So I like that. But it is interesting. Who do you think are Takeshita and Fletcher going to be sort of equals, doing separate things that feel equal, or is one going to leapfrog the other and seem like the leader of the singles side of the Don Callis family?
Yeah, it definitely seems like they are on their own tracks right now, with Takeshita doing the stuff with Ricochet, and it sounded like they were going to have some sort of meeting or promos with each other on Rampage. So after the stuff on Dynamite there. So, it certainly, Takeshita has been insecure about his spot, and that has been part of the storyline of, being leapfrogged in the tag team when Don Callis picked Will Ospreay to be the partner for Kyle Fletcher, and now he's trying to really establish himself now that he is what is it? Is it the international champion now? It's not, or is it Continental?
I'm scared to say sometimes.
This is bad. Yeah. Cause I'm like, is it Continental, international? But whatever championship that he holds, Fletcher right now, they're really trying to push him up to that upper echelon, because they do need more main event guys, as you see on the show, but certainly they need more main event baby faces. And that's certainly not the direction that they're going with him.
Zach Barber adds, Wade, Takeshita's nickname is literally the Alpha, LOL. That doesn't, you can have a nickname. It doesn't mean you will be, but well played. Darrell Freeman says, I love what they did with Kyle tonight. They need to give him this story. Just wish they started before now and hinted this earlier, but I think they did him an injustice waiting to tell this story. And Jirai says Kyle Fletcher is evolving, and I love it. Again, it's part of the journey. I tout that. I've touted that for a long time, many years, that pro wrestling, a big reason a lot of people watch. And I think one of the most exciting aspects of wrestling, beyond just, great matches, great promos, it's watching wrestlers on a journey, because it's where wrestling becomes real, because you can be booked to succeed and it doesn't work. You can be booked to be cheered and fans will reject you. Half the crowd rejected Cena. More than half the crowd rejected Roman Reigns as a baby face. Lex Luger, Vince McMahon wanted to get him over. It didn't work. On and on. I mean, there's examples of that happening where someone gets pushed and it doesn't work. It's not guaranteed. So when wrestlers are on a journey, both in a storyline way and in a, are they gaining traction with fans and getting the crowd response that's intended, that's fun to watch. And I want to see more of that. I want to see, and also for matches to matter, and from a booking scheme, if you're Tony Khan or any booker, you need to reward fans with progress when wrestlers when fans latch onto wrestlers, when they react to them, they start having good matches, good promos. You have to have progress. You have to show them moving up the card. You can't have everybody stationary. I mean, Aleister Black's in the exact same spot he was the day he showed up in AEW. There's nothing fun about that. We could come up
a
with
lesser spot.
Well, maybe, that's actually, there's something to that. Yeah. But there's no journey. So,
right. Yeah. I want to add too, and they're in a really good spot too with Kyle Fletcher, because although he has taken a lot of losses, he hasn't sustained that type of damage that we've seen with a lot of those other wrestlers, that they come too late to do that push. And particularly I pick on Daniel Garcia for that, where the guy just took so many losses to find down. And now that they're wanting to push him into a higher spot, that he's resigned, they're facing a really uphill battle. Whereas Kyle Fletcher, because he is so superior talented in the association that he's had with Will Ospreay, that you believe him more, where he just hasn't been defined down to a certain role, that he still feels like he is on the ascension, instead of just he's been defined at a certain spot.
Yep. Okay, I was going to read another chat, but let's bring Mark back into the conversation. Mark, welcome. What do you want to talk about now?
One thing, there was a couple more things I want to talk about, but the Adam Cole MJF thing with Roderick Strong, because you guys didn't talk about that, but MJF was like, whoever wins 3 matches first gets me at Full Gear. And as soon as he said that, I was like, why do I have a feeling there's going to be a triple threat? I don't know. I just got a feeling there might be a triple threat.
I mean, there might be.
I wanted your opinion on it.
It didn't cross my mind, but now that you bring it up, I mean, I guess I can't rule it out. Obviously, Buddy Matthews set up a match with Adam Cole to start Adam Cole's winning streak. MJF doing his thing. It's he loves giving a task for his opponents to achieve. It's sort of one of his go-to things. So the first 1 to 3 wins. Is it just between Cole and Roderick? Is that right?
Yeah.
Just
and then the other thing I wanted to talk about that, when everything was going on between, when Undisputed Kingdom was sitting in the ring still, they had Kyle O'Reilly watching the TV and backstage is like, we know Undisputed Era, Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, but I didn't understand that part. Why did you cut to that? There's got to be something that's going to happen, because why else would you show us that?
Yeah, Joel, talk about that.
Yeah, certainly. I think that, Kyle O'Reilly is seeing how this is playing out with his, former friends, he's probably looking out for Adam Cole, because I mean, the first thing I thought when they came out there is like, oh man, is Adam Cole going to get turned on again by these guys, and I just really think that it defines down Adam Cole being associated with Roderick Strong, Matt Taven, and Mike Bennett, that I just don't think that that's the direction you want to go in, even though it's a continuation, of that story of the devil, and just last week, Adam Cole was saying that he can do, he appreciates and loves those guys, but he wants to do it on his own. And now they're back here, and now they're back part of the storyline. And now he's, given this challenge because Roderick Strong says that he wants MJF first. And so certainly it didn't cross my mind, but now that you bring it up, Mark, I can't rule out a triple threat, and leading to that and trying to get more people on the card. That's not the direction I would go in. I think that at this point, you just need to go to Adam Cole and MJF after this storyline, was started last year, and then because of injuries and Adam Cole having his entire ankle, foot being reconstructed, having to have a bone replaced, as he said in the interview.
They took the cadaver bone. That was just I saw that whole article. I was like, they can do that.
I had no idea, but he said he wasn't going to take the time to explain it, on television. He saved it for an interview. So I hope that Adam Cole lasts that long to get to the match with MJF. I hope that
he says
okay
the ankle feels better than it ever did.
And he also says it'll have some limited mobility, and you hope that, everything goes well for him, because he's just had some real bad luck, during his run in AEW. So, I think that it's been a fine start. They're doing the best they can right now as MJF. I think he's still filming Happy Gilmore too. Is that why he's still out?
I assume. Yeah. I mean,
I'm
not tracking his filming schedule, but I assume so. But it makes storyline sense for him not to show up until the pay-per-view, because he's being elusive. Did it seem weird? He goes, "You will never get your hands on me ever," literally. Oh, but if you win 3 matches between now and Full Gear, you get to wrestle me. I felt that was a little weird. Am I misinterpreting that, or?
No, that was just like, huh? What? That just contradicted yourself there, buddy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's a little weird. I'm never going to let you touch me. I'm going to be gone forever. But at Full Gear, if you win 3 matches, you can have me. I wish he just would have said, I said you'll never get your hands on me. But you know what? I'm going to give you a challenge. If you, I don't know. I'm trying to make some sense of it. But if you go, I'm never going to give you the satisfaction getting your hands on me. But if you win 3 matches, which in AEW, against whom? Who cares? Like, he can rack up 3 wins in one night against 3 jobbers.
He can face 3 jobbers.
Yeah.
It's like they had this promo, last week to try and establish this, because obviously this is a match that they want for Full Gear. And then it was like they thought about over the week of, now how are we going to do this? Tell this story with them feuding with MJF. We're not going to have MJF back until Full Gear. And then this was kind of what they came up with, is having him back with the Undisputed Kingdom, and then setting up these matches to tell a story to lead up to the pay-per-view.
So playing into your theory, Mark, that there'll be a triple threat. What if Strong and Cole? What if Strong versus Cole? Sorry, this is not. I thought he was saying what if Strong and Cole each win 3 matches. But I think it was 1st to 3. So in a way, there can't be a triple threat if it's 1st to 3.
Oh yeah, if it's 1st to 3, yeah.
But that'll be the time where there's the coincidental 4-way match, and there's 2 pins at the exact same time, and they both get their 3rd win at the exact same time. Something just dumb and contrived like that. But no,
can't put it past them.
No, I can't. And not just them. WWE too. SF San Francisco Niners fan 23 says, "What if Strong versus Cole is each's 3rd match? So they face each other after each getting a win, or 2 wins, and so that's sort of the decider." I could see that.
Yeah, I could see that.
What if they have something like MJF picks their opponents too?
That'd have been better than just get any wins, but I don't know. Who they'd have to agree to let him pick, and then is he going to pick favorites and all that? I don't know. So anyway, Niners fan also says MJF is going to be the leader of Undisputed Era. What are they called now? Not Undisputed.
Undisputed Kingdom.
Kingdom. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I'm like UE. I'm like, that's from UE.
UE. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah,
United Emirates. What?
So. The problem with that is I'm so ready to move on from Cole and MJF, because it's just, someone used the term PTSD, and I don't mean to make light of the real thing, but it's kind of become vernacular. And so we use it more casually, but I want to acknowledge, I don't say that without thinking about where that term really comes from and how serious it is. But I do think we have that with this storyline, because it was so awful. Adam Cole just doing slave labor as if he was some sub for some dom group and some weird kink fetish at Strong's house. This whole thing was so weird. Week after week, Cole's like, I'll do it. I don't know what was going on there, and it was never explained. And
it's all part of their plan, I guess. That's what they said.
I'm trying not to laugh too hard, because I thought that whole thing was just hilarious. To be like, Adam, Adam. I'm like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. But it was weird, and it was one of those things that felt like it was done for the comedy without an eye on it, on character integrity and it making sense, and why is this still going on, and what's the end game, and then the whole thing just blew up because of injuries. And I mean, I say a lot, I give him a little bit of a mulligan anytime there's an injury that derails or delays a storyline. You know, Punk and Drew, you know, sort of had that, but you can't ignore the fact that bringing it back is risky, Joel. Because there's a lot of baggage with that storyline. And now we're having to sort of, you know, do they really want to try to tie up all the loose ends? I mean, I kind of just would have wished they went their separate ways and maybe circle back in 18 months if they're both healthy and active.
Yes, and you know, I could make an argument either way that, you know, at first I was kind of like, man, I'd really like to. I thought that just, you know, when they had their return at that earlier pay-per-view and MJF just kind of beat them up, it was like, okay, now they're just going to move on to their own things. And then when, you know, Adam Cole came back, it's like, okay, you know, you got to have Adam Cole involved in something big, something important, you know, because he's one of the few, you know, bigger name baby faces returning back to the roster. So MJF, you know, is somebody kind of at that level. But yeah, I just, you know, there is a part of me that just kind of wishes they would have moved on to some other stuff at this point. But, you know, as some of the criticisms that we've given for Adam Cole is, you know, kind of what is his character? What is the draw for him? You know, I think that his run in AEW has been lackluster. Like I said, for, you know, some of it has been, a lot of it has been bad luck. Some of it has been on him as well. Some of it has been on the booking. You know, there's just been a combination of things as to why he hasn't reached that full potential and that initial excitement from when he made that debut, you know, 3 years ago at this point. But yeah, it's just, there's some things about Adam Cole where I just wish he'd kind of clean up a little bit, some of the goofiness, you know, where it kind of keeps getting pulled back into this. You know, he did his your favorite bit, Wade, where it's all of a sudden he hears the Adam and he just whips back around like a Scooby-Doo cartoon.
Oh, his acting is very hit or miss.
Yes.
I mean, and some of it's good, but some of it is not good. And
total miss.
Yep. Not great instincts.
Yeah.
Okay. Mark, real quick back to you. I want to get to other callers. Anything you want to close with?
Yeah, the one last thing I wanted to talk about was the incident with Hook. Now I'm a big Hook fan, and I think it, like, in my opinion, it looks like, and I feel like his work is getting better. That's one opinion I want on you guys. Do you feel his work is getting better? And do you think that they're really going to try and do something between Hook and Christian, or is it going to be Hook against the hierarchy? Patriarchy.
Sure. You think, yeah, easy mistake. I think Hook had nowhere to go but better, because he was just really green. He was thrown into it before, you know, he was ready to be a star. And so he was very green, and I don't think he took as naturally to in-ring movements as a lot of wrestlers do. You know, the selling was weird. The movements in the ring the timing just felt a little bit off. Some people just, they don't take to it right away. But then there was, you know, so they focused on mat wrestling and short matches. But there is an X factor with him. There's a charisma with him, and I think he's been around long enough. There's a bond with him and the Taz connection they're leaning into, and there's a bond there with fans. So he's definitely gotten better, but I mean, he doesn't seem like somebody who toiled 12 years in the indie scene working international matches getting better. I mean, he doesn't have a polish to him or a flow and instinct to his matches. So there's something still different about him, but he is better. As far as where things go, I mean, you know, Hook against Nick Wayne, Hook against Kip Sabian, Hook against Christian. Yeah, I think we're in for probably all those matches. Joel, your thoughts on Hook's progress, the angle tonight, and where he's headed?
I think we're really in alignment on that way, where I'd say he's marginally better, you know, where it's just you know, there is a distinct thing about him. He's young. There's a cool factor there, but he doesn't have that same mystique that he had initially, where it's like, what's up with this guy, you know, and really wondering, What makes him tick, what's going on with him, where now we've seen a lot more of him, and he's getting that experience, and I think he's going to continue to progress because he's being given those opportunities against some experienced workers, and certainly, yeah, this sets him up to go up against all the patriarchy, and the patriarchy needed to do something with Killswitch being out for however long with the health scare that he had. And so you had the thing going on with Kip Sabian, now it seems like because he saved Christian that he's going to be more in alignment with them, after him just kind of being the stalker, like creepy guy kind of in the background.
And Christian just goes, go stand in the corner till I'm ready to deal with you. And he did. There was a real compliance there. I don't know what's going on with that either. I'm intrigued by it, but I hope that it makes sense when they pay this off that Sabian's been sort of stalking Christian, and Christian's been upset by it. It seemed like he was going to come after him over, daddy issues. And then he's just like, I'm on your side. I'm happy you're beating him down. And Christian goes, go sit in the corner. I'll get to you later. He's like, yes, sir. And he just did. Yeah. It's weird, but I'm intrigued. I just, hope they have something good in mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm intrigued. I'm not totally poo-pooing the whole thing there. I think there is a lot of value in having Christian on the show. He's not the guy I want to see in the main events, fighting for the world title, but certainly him working with a lot of the younger guys, I think has been of a huge benefit. And him against Hook, I think is a good program moving forward.
Cool. All right, Mark, appreciate the contributions to the show.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you guys so much for letting me come out. Wade, I always am listening. I'm always watching. Joel, it was nice meeting you, sir.
Nice to meet you too.
You guys have a great night. Keep doing all what you do, man.
Thank you. Always good to talk with you. Appreciate the kind words. All right, let's go to Scott in Tampa next. Scott, you're up next. What's on your mind about Dynamite tonight?
Hey, what's going on, guys? Long time no speak, Wade.
Yeah, it's been a while.
You. Yeah, hey, Joel. I think it's the first time I've been on when you've co-hosted, so nice to talk to you as well. So I have a few thoughts about tonight's show. I try to be the positive guy when I call in and join. It's not every week that I'm able to join live because I usually watch on delay and catch the show the next day. But I had a real issue with tonight's show. Since the Moxley turn and since he's returned to AEW, I've watched every Dynamite. What was it, like, since last month, or when he first showed up. Didn't watch the rest of Dream pay-per-view, but I've been very intrigued in that this storyline. I know it's confusing, and the paper bag or the plastic bag over Danielson's head it's stupid, and I hope they never do it again. But where they're going with it, I don't know where they're going with it, but it's very intriguing. So it keeps me watching. But there's some issues, and I know you guys already touched on some, but like I think the main issue with the storyline is not necessarily the storyline in itself; is more so just the overall issue with AEW in general, which is just the lack of organization and attention to detail that I think they lack, and that's why certain stories don't always reach the climax that it should. And it's simple things, little things that people may not think about, but like the damn audio. I mean, come on. It's been 5 freaking years. They're on national cable television. Why is the audio, the music is much louder than what the actual words that are coming out of the Moxley's mouth? Like, it was. Yeah. Did you catch anything?
Yeah.
Did either of you guys catch what he said when he was standing in the desert? Because I couldn't hear it. All I heard was the music. That's like a legitimate question.
It wasn't as bad. I thought was it one of the women's recap segments. Was it Penelope, where there's music playing over it and we couldn't really hear what she was saying? And
yeah, it was all.
And then the music mix was as usual too loud tonight on Collision. On Saturday, it's like they chose every room they could find in that arena that had the worst acoustics, like worse acoustics than a bathroom. They were in like I'm trying to think a cellar of some kind. Like, it was just hallways that are just in all bricks. It's like I think I once on the show took an image of like an Amazon portable acoustic setup where you can just pull out acoustic screens that you can set up behind a behind camera just to add acoustics. It's like $300. Like, just buy that and carry it around for your segments. I mean, honest, I'm not even joking. Like, buy 2 of them and have a crew member set them up behind the camera so that there's not this echo chamber. It is absolute amateur hour and inexcusable when they go into these, stairwells and utility rooms and those types of settings where it's just you can understand what they're saying, but it's terrible sounding. But then the sound mix, I still don't understand that, Joel, how they haven't listened back to the show and said, oh, there's one dial we need to turn up and another we need to turn down. I mean, how hard is that?
Yeah, it was really weird because it was like this pre-taped video. I'm assuming it's just a video package that they edited and put together, and how that mixing on that, whoever's editing it and then testing it out. I mean, yeah, I was trying to turn up the volume to hear.
You said two things that aren't sure are happening: editing and testing.
Yeah,
they're just doing.
And see, like, I do have some experience with television production and stuff that I did before, and that's routine as you test out all your video packages, and that's specifically what you do it for, is to hear the audio. It's not even for the image, it's for the audio. That's the biggest thing that stands out to people. You could have a less than perfect image, but having bad audio is always going to stick out to people more. And that's what they teach you in video production. And so I'm just not sure why they still have those things, especially at the top when Jon Moxley's words, you're supposed to be hanging on to every word that he says. So, I couldn't hear the first part of it, but certainly I heard the part that, he's going to take out somebody, and, that somebody's going to have to pay the price for later on in the show. And, those things are always going to continue to stick out. And there's always going to be issues, when you have production. But, you look at some of these other major leagues, that are on cable television, and they just, there's always going to be issues here and there when you do live TV. But these seem to be things that are easily preventable just by going through this stuff and testing things out. That, when you're live, things happen. But for these video packages, just clean them up. We talk about them. It seems like almost every time I'm on here,
Yeah. I think it's just you, Joel. They know that you're gonna be co-hosting with Wade, and like we're gonna screw up the audio so someone brings it up. But no, but seriously, it's just like I can't understand. I don't get it, and it's
another. By the way, since we're talking about little things, or not little things, important things, but away from storyline and match quality. Why is Bryan Danielson still in all their commercials? Like they're last night on TNT, they're airing commercials for Dynamite, and Bryan Danielson's the centerpiece star. I think he's the only one who talked in the promo. They showed others too, but it's like, honestly, like those commercial spots are not cheap. There are people paying big money for commercials during NBA games, and AEW's running one that's dated right now. I mean, there's a storyline with Jon Moxley. Instead of showing a bunch of quick cuts of wrestlers doing high spots, and it's like, oh, look, this XWE wrestler's, Sasha Banks is here, and oh, look, this XWE wrestler is here, and look at this high spot. Instead, produce a fresh commercial that says Jon Moxley wants to take over AEW and will the wrestlers rise? Like, customize it. This is free cross promotion by your parent company, your partner, or not parent, well, a little bit, but your TV partner, and Danielson, who's retired, is your centerpiece guy you're showing. I mean, come on. Like, that's as bad as the audio issues, or maybe worse, because now people are going to tune in wanting to see Danielson, and they won't, and they should be tuning in to see something they're going to see.
Yeah, there's always been that issue of them, when you look at, the different graphics that they have for the different cities and upcoming events, a lot of these promos where they just, a lot of times, and they are doing a better job, but you have to give them credit for trying to promote the upcoming events that they have. They have a graphic of the different cities. They're trying to do more exclusive things. I'm seeing a lot more stuff on social media trying to promote those events. But certainly, as you're saying, Wade, that you could curtail those to be more relevant, more in line with what's currently happening, that the way they seem more updated versus stuff that seems very canned and just kind of like they had the generic thing. They kind of, superimpose the different wrestlers onto the graphic and then just change the name of the city. Where if they had things that felt more current and relevant on there, I think that's kind of the next step, that they've taken that next leap of trying to get more stuff out there, promote more of it. But yeah, now let's have it be more current, get people more invested into, hey, here is what's going on currently in AEW versus here's a collection of wrestlers, as you said, a lot of former WWE guys, some high spots where the best wrestle, those kind of more generic terms, and have some things that are a little bit more specific that can get people more intrigued and hooked.
It's not fun. It's not sexy. You don't get social media buzz. You don't get that sugar rush from fans saying great match, and Cage Match isn't going to rate you on it. It's just it's grunt work. Like, just update your damn graphics and promos. Like, that's just, if they were a mom and pop operation and they're just stretching their budget, I wouldn't. I'd be like more like softer in my criticism. Like, hey, they probably they when they have time they should do this. But it's like they got the budget. They really have talent they're not using and they're paying. And I mean, somebody's got to be able to update that. Anyway, point made. Scott, back to you.
Yeah, no, I just, to go back to what Joel was saying about the advertising for upcoming shows. I love that. It was like, okay, great. Okay, yeah, you're trying to get people to buy tickets early. You're advertising that. But again, it goes back to sound quality. I couldn't hear it. It was like, I don't know what they're saying. It seems great, but
all right,
that's
Scott.
what it is.
No,
but yeah,
I don't want to just stomp on him over and over on this. Let's move on.
Yeah, no. I'm moving on from that. That's it. Yeah, that's it. What I was going to talk about next was the I lost my train of thought. No, the actually, okay, the storyline with Chuck Taylor. I didn't know that he was out or had a career-ending injury, or that's something they could have tied up. I wish that they kind of spoke about it more. I had to Google it during the show, which took me out of actually watching the show itself. So little small things, attention to detail they just need to do better at. But the story that I wanted to talk about, actually, it's really, I'm sorry guys, like, it's just escaped my mind just now. But oh crap, I'm sorry guys.
Moxley, you got Camille and Mercedes, you got the House of Black squash, you got
House of Black.
All
yes,
right.
Thank you. Sorry. Yes, thanks for that.
That's
Sorry, guys. Yeah, I thought Malachi Black was gone from the company. I legit.
I don't blame you,
because I mean,
you're just not watching Collision.
Oh, right, yeah. Who is? Yeah, Malachi. We've only seen Brody King for the most part on Dynamite this past few weeks, and I thought he was gone and out of the company. Do you know what is his status? Is his contract's coming up? Is he? I thought I saw that or read it or heard about it, over the past several months, that he was on his way out.
So he's wanted. I mean, he's among the group that people just say Joel doesn't want to be there and he wants to be in WWE. Andrade and Rusev were, the others were kind of talked about in that group. Let me know if I'm forgetting anyone, Joel. And he doesn't want to do jobs. He doesn't want to be there. He doesn't want to do jobs. And Tony Khan doesn't stand up to him or doesn't have leverage. And I mean, I've been told by people in AEW, it's hard to do business with someone who doesn't want to do business. So he's, for whatever reason, getting paid. I think Tony's just being like, well, whatever, I'll just ride out your contract and get something out of you. But I mean, it's a bummer, because if they were on the same page and he was motivated, he'd be, a real asset, Joel.
Yeah, I don't know why they haven't been able to figure out some of the differences there. There was a while back, when Triple H got back into power in WWE, that a lot of the guys wanted to get out of there. You even saw Malachi Black do a wave at one point, kind of giving his final send-off at one point with AEW. And then it was like, oh, I guess he's not leaving. He's staying here. And as we've talked about before, he's really just kind of stayed at that same level with the House of Black, where they haven't really moved up or down the card. Malachi Black, there was a ton of, there was a lot of excitement for him. This is when they were signing a lot of the former WWE guys, and you were intrigued to see those underutilized people and what they could do in AEW. And he had actually a really nice feud with Cody Rhodes when he came in there. And since then, it's just been with House of Black. They've held the trios tag titles, but otherwise it's just been more or less of the same stuff. So it's it's an unfortunate situation, but Tony Khan before was, he was of the opinion of letting guys kind of out of their contracts, if they asked for it, because he was the nice guy boss. And then now he's at this point where he's seeing that a lot of these guys now are wanting to go to WWE, and he's just, if he's going to use you, it's going to be at the kind of the Malachi Black level. Otherwise, he's going to put you, on ice, like we're seeing with the Lucha Brothers right now, that, they've made their intentions clear that they want to go to WWE. And right now he's, that they're just going to kind of sit in the background and wait until, they get through the injury time that's been tacked on.
Yeah. Standard deviation in the chat says, spot on, Joel. Malachi said goodbye at All Out 2022, a month after being contacted by WWE to return. And he hasn't looked motivated since. I mean, it's a prime part of his career, and I don't know, maybe he'll explain someday what the story is, but it seems like such a waste.
Yeah. I mean, I don't understand. It's like, okay, if you want to go back to the WWE and be used, in a good spot, like in a good position, why would you be so unprofessional? Because I mean, I think he would. No offense to Buddy Matthews, but I think Adam Cole getting a win over Malachi Black on his way to on his way to his pay-per-view match with MJF would make would elevate Cole or make him look better than it would him beating Matthews, and they could have a great match. And I mean, you can win in a loss in wrestling, I mean, and he's a great performer. So it's kind of like, it's unfortunate that he's so unprofessional in that, if that's really the case, because I think that would be a lot better for both, and I would love to see him in other great matches, but it's a shame.
Yeah, Ramen Noodle says those guys are an anchor for Brody King. The dude is money. It seems like he wants to work. Buddy Matthews just seems like all he wants to do is pack on muscle and become immobile. I mean, and just tear another bicep or something. I mean, I'm not trying to be cruel, but it's like, you're a wrestler, you're not a bodybuilder. Just like, you look great in WWE.
Dude, he is massive.
Yeah. And I mean, he was really good in WWE, and he's one of those guys I'd be using in AEW. But honestly, it seems like he's just obsessed with adding muscle mass. Like, there's wrestlers who do that, and I think it just gets detrimental. They're wrapped up in what they look like in the mirror, how much they're lifting, and I can't read his mind, but I mean, it's not. Every time he wrestles now, I fear he's just going to tear a bicep. He's at that over muscular stage where the tendons can't hold what the muscles are trying to do, and you're just going to, you're going to break. Zach Barber runs to his defense, says he's big, but he's not immobile. He's more mobile when he has 25 pounds less muscle. That's completely pointless for pro wrestling, I would argue. Ramen Noodle says Tommy End has always been a moody, sulking guy. Yeah, well, it's unfortunate, but doesn't make him immune to criticism. That is who he is. He's a public figure. He's getting paid, and he's under delivering for fans.
Yeah, it's too bad. He is a real talent, and he could have been an asset for this company. So I just don't know why they couldn't have figured out those differences. But certainly, it just seems that he's set on not wanting to be there and get out of the company. That they couldn't do something with him.
Yeah. Niners fan says Tony should use all the guys who don't want a job and put them on ROH TV. Tony should have teeth in his contracts to make people do jobs. And when someone doesn't want to do a job, he should make them job and job again, or they don't get paid and they have to sit out their contract not getting paid. But that's for Tony Khan and the lawyers to figure out. But that's what I would do in a perfect world.
Exactly. Yeah. As a legal scholar myself, he should. He and his lawyers should have something in the contracts that punishes these guys, and or give them incentives to actually do want to perform. I mean, it's ridiculous. Lastly, it's just lead right into the MJF and Adam Cole. These are two guys. Obviously, I'm with everyone who I think that they should have just skipped over and not even done this feud. Whatever happened a few months after pay-per-view when MJF returned and low blowed or attacked Adam Cole. It should have been it, and they just should have moved on. But they're doing the match, whatever. I feel like with the direction that AEW is going in, and I'm intrigued and I like it. That's a lot to do with what they're doing with Mox and that group. I don't know where MJF and Adam Cole fit, and it may sound crazy, but like to me, it seems like with WWE under the regime of Levesque and how they're telling stories right now, I feel as if MJF and Adam Cole would be much better there than it would be here. It's just I don't have that same excitement for Adam Cole as I did 3 years ago when he came over, and certainly not with MJF.
Imagine Adam Cole showing up, Joel, in NXT right now, going after Ethan Page, or as a heel, in a top spot. I mean, there's this whole fresh array of people to work with in NXT, and I mean that'd be where I'd drop him. On the main roster, he's still so small. Like, I mean, I just
good point.
I mean, I don't. That shouldn't be a disqualifier, but WWE main roster, it's going to be it's just him and Drew McIntyre, or him and Roman Reigns, or him and Jacob Fatu. It's like it's tough. As him as a babyface against Jacob Fatu, could work. I'm not saying don't do it, but NXT feels like a really really fun fit for him. And in AEW, there's some damage done. But again, some of it just comes down to not only the physical aspect, but mentally he's been through so much with, he gave recounted sleepless nights and the stress and all that of his injury, and then having this real serious injury, and it's a fluke thing. And I mean, he's been through a lot, and sometimes, it sucks, but you go through that, and it's like, what was it? Derrick Rose on the Bulls, where he's like this rising star, and he eventually came back. He was never quite the same, but he was, pretty good at times. I mean, he contributed with the Wolves and other teams he played for, but was never the same. And you wonder if that's what the deal is with Cole.
Yeah, he has just been dealt a really bad hand lately, and especially he has talked about some personal stuff that's going on as well with him and Britt Baker, that they're no longer together. So he's just been hit with a barrage of things right now. But you make the good point, Wade, where it's like a good setting for him right now would be NXT. That I think that he'd fit right in with a lot of people there, because I don't see him doing well on the main roster WWE. But it's like when he's standing out there and the rest of the Undisputed Kingdom come out, I hate to say it, but the first thing I notice when the other guys come out there is he's smaller than everyone. They all come out there and they're all taller than him, they're all bigger than him. But Adam Cole he has a very distinct look, and he has a charisma about him. But he's going to have to get a lot more of that swagger back. And I think that's going to come with, him getting some wins against some name people coming up here. And I think that if he can show that he can still hang at that high level and stay healthy for a long time, he can earn a lot of that swagger back. It's just, he's had a lot of those setbacks.
That's the key, Joel, is that swagger is what elevated him above his size, his muscle mass, his kind of narrow shoulders, his not muscular. He's not a gym rat, and I don't know that, I sound hypocritical, like, well, what about Buddy Matthews? And giving him a hard time for being too muscular. But there is a happy medium, and, it served Cole well, but what served him well was that self-confidence, that bravado, that, I'm just watch me when the bell rings. I mean, like, there is a little bit of that missing, because I think of a lot of real life stuff going on. Zach Barber says, wow, Wade, do you want to put Adam Cole back in developmental? Shaking my head. You can say that, Zach, but last week, Dynamite drew 633,000 viewers. NXT, 639, 6,000 more viewers. I want him to be in front of 6,000 more people. That's what I want. I'm not rooting for anything. I'm just saying I think that would be a fresh place for him. And you get scared of what I'm saying. NXT drew 702,000 last night. Got our ratings up at PWTorch.com. I don't know that Dynamite's going to beat that. So, you can say they want him in developmental, but frankly, NXT and Dynamite are neck and neck right now. They're, so it's not a big step down to be working in front of, working at ECW Arena next month, and in Chicago in front of a bigger crowd than AEW's drawn since Wembley. I mean, it's a legit big brand right now.
NXT is not a bad place to be. I love Ramen Noodle. I love you, Zach, but no, I'm not burying Cole. I think it's an honest assessment to say that he has had a lot of setbacks, and there is a road for him to go on to get back to feeling like he is a real main event guy, a real difference maker. That it's hard to get invested into him right now, where I'm not hearing him getting those huge reactions at this point, from the crowd, that I think he's really going to have to show some sustainability, after some, after a number of setbacks here. And I agree with you, Wade, that I think putting him into a different setting, like we saw what NXT has been able to do with Ethan Page, getting a lot more out of him than AEW was able to do. And I'm not advocating for him to leave and go to another promotion right now. It's just a difficult landscape, and I think AEW really needs him to pull through, because they could really use somebody like an Adam Cole to be a reliable guy on the roster. Totally.
Standard Deviation says you can't compare cable ratings with broadcast ratings. Yes, you can, because I just did. CW is a fifth rate. It's the number 5 broadcast network. USA Network is the number 1 or contender for number 1 cable network. It's comparable, and it's also just a fact. Adam Cole would be wrestling in front of more people if he wrestled for NXT, which, Zach called developmental, than AEW. That's just a fact. I'm not taking any joy in it. It's not my job to root for one side or the other. It's just a fact. It's basically the same audience. But my point originally, the spirit of my point is, I just think a fresh setting with the garbage angles he's been part of and the setbacks and the start-stop. NXT is where he did his best work, and there's some really, heel Cole against babyface Trick Williams or Ethan Page. There's some fun stuff at the top that he could be doing, some fun stuff, a little bit below the top level. And so to me, that's more exciting than, but if Adam Cole steps up to Moxley and reinvigorates himself and gets a spring in his step again, that's cool too. It's not like it's all doom and gloom for him. It's just, it got brought up, and I'm like, yeah, I don't think it'd be the worst thing. It's been a rough stretch.
Mm-hmm.
There's some debate about this in the chat. Keith Birdie says Cole does need developmental. The man is barely back to walking, and he's in the middle of a dead angle. Developing does not necessarily mean maturing. If anybody needs development, it might be Cole. So anyway, Scott, appreciate your contribution to the show. Good to hear from you again. I'm sure we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, thanks for having me on. Next time I have my notes like Rude Dog, so I won't lose my train of thought. So.
I was there for you. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks for that.
Yep.
Have a good night, guys.
Yeah. Zach Barber says it's been a rough stretch for poor Adam. That is true.
Yeah, absolutely. He's just got a long ways to go to get back to being at the level of excitement about him and being somebody that they can rely upon. He has a lot of talent, and we just need to see it. Get him back in the ring.
Ramen Noodle says, I can't wait for Cole to get back in the ring. He's been out for so long. People forget how well he fits in AEW. Apparently, I've forgotten. So, absolutely. Yeah. It's, he can. It just, when they throw him in this bad angle, it's rough. Zach Barber reminded me he did a super chat, and I broke my promise to prioritize that, so I will.
Mm-hmm.
Mox's group gives me early NWO vibes. Darby is clearly being set up as their Sting. They just have to pay it off, unlike Hogan's Sting. First of all, I was watching this going, is this trying to relive the past? Are they trying to do, NWO destroying WCW, and who's going to be the Diamond Dallas Page who comes to the rescue to fill in the babyface side? Maybe it's Adam Cole. Maybe he'll be the DDP who rises up and fills adds some unexpected depth to the challengers to them. I don't know. What do you think, Joel? NWO vibes?
It's always fair to look at those things through that lens, because there is a history of trying to replicate things from the past, and especially things from WCW, or ECW as well. So, I certainly can see that comparison, especially with Sting being Darby's mentor, and trying to do a lot of things similar to. For Darby trying to do a lot of things similar to Sting. So that would make a lot of sense. And to have Darby come back, having him come from the rafters, it would get a great pop. You could have Tony Schiavone doing the call of "It's Darby," something like that. So certainly, wow. they're gonna have their own spin on what they're doing here with Moxley. But certainly, yeah, I think that's fair to draw some comparisons there.
Chris Pollock says, sorry, but this feels like Millionaires Club against New Blood. Sorry if that has been said before. That is not a compliment for the uninitiated in how all this works. Yeah, I was going to say something else about the NWO analogy. But, yeah, Moxley is invading from within, and he's upset. But I think, Joel, before we bring Rude Dog on here, the Moxie character still, I like this defense that, well, his message is something everyone's going to be sympathetic with, but it's because he delivers it in a mean way or a rude way or an overbearing way that we should boo him. It's like, that's not a defense for the just ridiculously awful environmentalist version of Daniel Bryan in WWE. Like, asking people to boo trying to protect the environment from, the oil industry. I mean, it's just like, oh, but he said it with a tone I didn't like, so let's cheer oil industries, causing climate change. It's just like, that was just stupid. Like, I made no sense. Well,
that was dumb.
And now Moxley's going, well, I mean, it's similar enough ways to draw the parallel. Moxley's like, oh yeah, these people are partying. It's not what I came here for. He's basically saying, in so many words, in a dog whistle type way, you people know I was frustrated with Vince McMahon, right? Well, I came here to experience a different place, and it's turning into that place. And I need to change it. Well, shouldn't everybody be rallying around that? And you want us to boo it? Well, so it seemed like it was self-aware of that, and that's why he tried to suffocate Bryan Danielson to death, because it's like, I'm gonna kill the nicest guy in the world, in the pro wrestling world, and that's gonna offset the fact that my message is the most pure babyface message for current and especially disgruntled and lapsed AEW fans. I still don't get it. I don't get what the strategy is here. I'm going to cut a promo every week speaking the truth, which might be how Moxley actually feels about some of the stuff, some of the booking and some of the wrestlers and their attitudes. But everybody's nodding along to it. And so how was that going to lead to babyfaces getting cheered when the babyfaces are Jay Lethal and Jeff Jarrett? And I mean, it's just like, it's not top people. So I don't know. I just think there's a lot of issues that are sort of baked in that are going to be hard to avoid, and then execution issues that are going to take some patience. It doesn't mean I'm giving up on it, because I'm sort of defending the idea of kind of working your way up, but it's not explained well. I'll put it that way. Joel.
Yeah, he's been the voice of the fans, and his explanation of, he said, I'm tired of the celebrating it for no reason and the dancing and all this stuff. A lot of the goofy stuff that people would say is more like WWE. And so definitely kind of baby facing himself, where it's like, yeah, we do want to get rid of that stuff. We do want to be our own distinct brand, something that is more serious, where Moxley has been the heart and soul of the promotion and brought that seriousness, that grit, to the promotion in the inception, when he made his debut, and then when he was champion. He just brought that heart and soul that I think a lot of people are looking for. I think he's been the favorite of a lot of fans and people watching. Especially for me, he's been one of my favorites to watch. His promo style, the intensity, certainly his match style has been very unique, and I like that as a tone for a wrestling promotion. And he hasn't laid out exactly what this plan is, other than that they're just going to be attacking people, because all these other things are still happening on the show. And it's like like the last week before, you had the Outrunners just coming out to do the exact thing Moxley's talking about, just celebrating for no reason with FTR. And so it's like these baby faces are almost just like defending the honor of, we do want to celebrate and dance for no reason, and it's like, I don't think that's a great rallying cry for the other baby faces. They should be talking more about, you took out Bryan Danielson, who was this guy. He was the one who paved the path for so many of us of being this undersized great wrestler who paid his dues on the independent scene and organically built himself into a star and a top wrestler. I think that would be a better rallying cry of making him into the martyr who was taken out. And I think that would be such better messaging for the baby faces.
So a little bit in the chat room here, playing off of what you just kind of closed with there. Zach Barber says his message may have merit, but his methods are beyond the pale. That's not difficult to understand, I don't think. I think you're just circling back to exactly what I said. It's not difficult to understand. I just disagree with it. So Ramen Noodle adds to Zach's message going, all the best modern villains tell the truth. That's purposeful. So in pro wrestling, you get to choose what you say and what you don't. And I think having a heel come out and they're choosing to say what they don't need to say, which is the truth about how a lot of people feel about AEW, which is it's a bunch of underachieving disgruntled people who don't want to be there or who are frustrated and sort of phoning it in and underachieving initial hopes, including the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega as, co-founders. It's a company, as Todd Martin talks a lot about on The Fix, that's lost its way in terms of being an alternative to what WWE was 5-6 years ago when the idea was born. And we're getting bad comedy sketches, whether it's Roderick Strong ordering Adam Cole around or the MJF, a lot of the things MJF straight often did that felt outside of to say the least, outside of the best lane for him. On and on. I mean, we could go on and on. There's just, the Jeff Jarrett clan, it's become something that a lot of people feel what Moxley is expressing. Do you really want to hang a lantern on that? Do you really want to draw attention to that on your own TV show? Have a wrestler draw attention to why so many people have stopped watching, and how some people are less apt, as we know from attendance, they're less apt to pay money to see this product now. They had another sub 3,000 crowd tonight. Barely got past 2,500 people. That's not an exception anymore. So yes, villains tell the truth. It's their truth sometimes. But if the truth resonates with people, yeah, Moxley's saying all the things I sort of feel about AEW. It makes me apathetic and not buying tickets and why my friends aren't watching anymore. And I am. You don't have to make that a centerpiece message on your show with the major angle. You can choose something else. Like Moxley could say, I came here expecting to be the centerpiece and the top paid guy in the biggest deal. And now, you fans are cheering for other people, and you should have young baby faces lined up, and he could be ripping on Darby Allin. Why are you cheering for Darby? Look at him. He's not a world champion. I am. Why are you cheering for Danny Garcia? Yeah, I liked him at one time, but blah, blah, blah. And you pick out something on him that seems mean and a little bit out of step with how fans feel about him. Have him attack baby faces and act like he thinks he's holier than thou in a big deal, who should be treated like royalty because of where he's been and what he's done. And that's a heel. That's someone going, push me instead of all these young guys who the fans are choosing instead of me. Doesn't even have to be true that the fans are choosing young people instead of him, but that's a more heelish message. And then Zach says this, and it drives me nuts, Joel. That feels horribly inauthentic for Mox. Well, it doesn't. How do you know what is authentic for Mox? How do you know that? Because if he said that and he said it convincingly, that's his new truth. That's his new truth. Who says he can't evolve into that? It's been 5 years. That can be his new character. This idea that you're locked down to an inconvenient truth that sabotages people watching your show and an angle making sense, but we have to link all our stories to what the people who are on Twitter every day know and people listen to podcasts like this know is true. No, give us a story we can believe in, that we can buy into within the narrative structure of the show that actually makes you want to boo him instead of nod along and going, I see what they're doing. He's genuinely frustrated. He's saying things that ring true. I'm supposed to boo him. So to get me to boo him, I have to focus on him being overbearing in the tone he's using. Come on, just pick a better story. Don't attach yourself to an inconvenient bad reality that makes no sense if you put it on the air. And so go ahead, Joel.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, Wade, because it's just he's calling these things out that at this point in time, because we haven't seen a total tonal shift, outside of just there being so many dominant heels on the show, that all these things he's talking about are still happening on the show because we still have the same booker. That's not going to change. There's still going to be all the things that he's calling out on. Whereas what you're calling for, too, is for him to call out other wrestlers specifically because you're trying to build up other matches. And right now, they're trying to put Orange Cassidy into that position to be that first challenger for Moxley. Yeah. But, it feels very manufactured. It doesn't feel like, that outside of, Chuck Taylor has been, assaulted and attacked by Moxley's faction. But, they have this lack of people who are set up for this, where his rallying cry should have been exactly like you said, that you people are cheering for these other people like Will Ospreay, this flashy guy, and you start planting the seed for these other people to have a reason to stand up for AEW because they've been specifically called out by Jon Moxley, who's now the champion. And instead, his whole thing is that he wants to change the tone of AEW, and I don't think it's going to be totally changed. I think that it's it's going to really remain the same. You're just going to continue to have Moxley doing this thing.
And if the argument is it's inauthentic, like Zach says, come on, Wade, you know what feels authentic to the person in the ring and what doesn't. I'm trying to come up with an idea. I'm trying to create an illustrative point of how somebody can say something that will actually cause fans to go, I don't like that Moxley's saying that. Is that who he is now? I don't like that Moxley. And then you add to it the tone and the tactics, and it's like, all right, I'm going to boo this guy. You get to choose whatever his message is, and he can tell it and convince me of it. So I'm making an illustrative point, which is you don't have to speak the truth and then try to overcome this mountain of inconvenience that what he says, even though he wants to be a heel, is resonating as true to people, which is a bunch of people acting like kids in the back and they're not professionals. And that's why we're a company moving backwards instead of forwards, doing stuff that, we were supposed to be a sports league that didn't do the sports entertainment nonsense. And now we've driven away a ton of our fans. That's the underlying core of what Moxley is saying. Now that we've seen a month of this character, they don't have to tell that story on the air. You're not tied to bad truth that's going to completely sabotage the image of your company as you try to awkwardly push him as a heel. So the better solution is for him not to be a heel and to go after and have the same message and be as fierce with it, but try to straighten out the company in a way where you're supposed to cheer him. Moxley is in the Bryan Danielson mode of, and he's done this before, where people don't want to boo you, and then you pick some sort of story that makes people not want to boo you, and then everyone who says, well, I want to cheer this message, then the pushback is, oh, but his tone. It's like, think of all the awful things in the world somebody could, or all the really good things people could advocate for, but you're going to go, but I'm going to boo their message that I deeply believe is right because I'm not quite sure I like the way they deliver the message. It's just utter nonsense. What a dumb formula with the choice of everything you can do in pro wrestling to tell any story based on reality or fiction with these great characters, and you choose to fight the headwind of a message people want to cheer, but it's the method of delivery and the tone that makes you want to boo them. I can't think of a more stupid way to build a storyline than the heel has a message everybody believes in and likes, or most people do, and thinks is a good thing, but we're going to make you boo him because he's a little, he's a little pushy with the message. Like, come on. It's like the gay rights movement didn't make if somebody said, well, yeah, I think gay people shouldn't be shunned from jobs and they all that. Oh, but the people who are for that, I just don't like their tone. It's a little too pushy for me. So I'm going to be against gay rights. Like, come on. That's what you're saying. Like, that's not how society works. People don't go against things they like. Well, some people do, but they're because they don't want progress, or they don't want to do the right thing. So they say, well, your tone is what turns me off. It's a nonsense defense, and it always has been. And as Zach says, he's not pushy, he's violent. Well, he tried to kill Bryan Danielson. I'm going to the idea that Danielson's whole environmental thing, the defense for that is, well, I agree with his message, but he was a little preachy. Okay, well, what a dumb gimmick to choose, where I like the message, but he's a little preachy, so I'm going to boo a guy who I authentically love anyway. It's just, that whole thing was so stupid. I still think it's one of the worst character storylines ever, although when he joined the Wyatt family, that was pretty close. But Danielson is a really good wrestler, but he's been part of some really bad ideas that he has not distanced himself from over the years. So I don't think, honestly, I mean, I'm not shy about saying it. I don't think he's got a great booking mind. I think he's very into wrestling history and very into great wrestling matches, and he's always a great promo and authentically one of the great babyface characters. But his idea of, I like being a heel more, so I'm going to be a really bad, ineffective heel that's fun for me to do, that's counterproductive to everything else around me, is not helping the wrestling business. It's selfish. And I think as much as he's given, and he's given a lot more than he's taken, way more positive than negative. But to me, the negative on his ledger is, it'll be fun for me, so let me do a bad version of something fun for me because I get off on it. It's like, that's not adding to your legacy. But people love him so much, so they twist themselves in a pretzel to defend the nonsense he's chosen to do. Joel.
Yeah, he comes at it from the angle of, I'm the artist in wrestling, and I'm gonna try these different things that I think would be fun, or experiment with this different stuff, instead of what's the best way to draw money, which is the best way is to draw money is you have these main event stars who are going up against each other to prove who is the best, and instead we get into these other convoluted storylines of pointing out what has been a major criticism of the promotion for a long time that you hear on podcasts like this. And it's just not been, the focus has not been so much on almost murder of Bryan Danielson. It has been on how he is going to, do this takeover and changing the tone of the show. And I just think that has been the wrong messaging here, whereas it needs to be something more about that. Everybody loved Bryan Danielson, and now he's taken him away. And also we've had Darby Allin taken away from us, and he's taking away a lot of these other babyface wrestlers. And now you're excited to see them come back and have matches against him. And his messaging has been, while his delivery has always been great, because Jon Moxley has an awesome charisma about him. He's just got a great delivery swag. His new look with his beard looks very sinister. The messaging has not hit the mark for me to this point. That I need to see more of a clear vision that is about him beating other wrestlers, more so than being the voice of disgruntled fans.
Ramano says, I really don't think there's a bunch of people dying to cheer this, though, just like there wasn't a bunch of people dying to cheer the Daniel Bryan Eco angle. I'm not saying they're dying to cheer it. I'm saying the message works against the goal of getting heel heat. Mm-hmm. When understanding the English sentences that they are using and the points that they're making are either neutral or counterproductive to getting booed, or they just don't emote. I mean, they don't emote any pro wrestling emotion. But the thing is that the people who are going to nod along to what Moxley is saying have probably been driven away from watching the show. They're the ones who used to fill the seats that are now empty. So that's weird. But when you can choose anything, I think the heel should go after something that fans care about, and saying the wrestlers are not taking this job seriously and they're celebrating when they shouldn't be, and they're partying and they're not taking their job seriously. It's like, sorry, that's not something I think anyone's going to be like, oh, I need to pay money to boo that guy. So just do the heel angles and do the heel stuff you just talked about, Joel. Focus on that instead of the broader message, which feels more like Mox is venting, and maybe save that for the therapist and spare the audience from something that works against his goal to get booed.
Yeah, I just don't see how his messaging is something that's going to draw money. I think.
How would you explain it? How would you explain it to someone who's like, oh, I didn't watch AEW for 6 months, or I've never watched AEW. Who's the top heel and what's his message? I mean, could you explain it? And they'd be like, wait, I'm supposed to boo that? Oh, but he tried to kill Bryan Danielson. Okay, that's bad, and also a little over the top for pro wrestling. And it's weird that they still pay him to show up if he tried to kill someone. But it's been a mess. Mm-hmm. But his delivery is so good. I mean, like, that's what's such a shame about this. Yeah, that's what's a shame. Is like, if you just give him something to vent about that's relatable to fans in a way that they want to cheer or boo, instead of this kind of headwind of he's kind of making sense, but he's a little violent about it. I mean, who's going to boo that? People want to cheer him. Okay. Let's go to Rude Dog. Thanks for standing by, Rude Dog. Welcome. What's in your mind about Dynamite tonight?
Hey, Wade. Hey, Joel. Good to talk to you. So, I know you talk about Moxley a lot, but I'm going to just throw in my 2 cents. With the, amount of goons that were just standing outside, if Moxley would have just drove his car or his truck, right over all of them and put them out indefinitely, obviously not really hurting them, but I mean, it would have been fine with me. So I don't see,
I don't know why they didn't try that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he tried to kill Danielson with a plastic bag, so why wouldn't he try to kill him with a Dodge Ram pickup?
I mean, if that would have happened, it would just be all right, good.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of hard. What they're not doing a good job making him a heel, is what I'm saying. I mean, obviously, killing people or whatever.
Right.
But
I get you. No, your point is illustrative, not literal. Yeah. By the way, what were all those wrestlers there for? Why was Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal there? I mean, they don't think it. Maybe it doesn't matter. I think it does. I think people get used to it not mattering because they just they're so beaten out of any kind of logic. But there's a whole group of wrestlers out there, and almost none of them had anything to do. Why are they at the show? I mean, are they there? I guess the announcers could have said these wrestlers weren't scheduled tonight, and they on their own volition, or Tony Khan paid them to be here to fend off Moxley from getting in the building. The problem is the storyline is so over the top and heavy-handed in its messaging and in the execution and the violence. They can't actually have it make sense in the framework of Tony Khan's the boss. He writes the paychecks, and we're here to find out who the best wrestler is. And now you have Moxley in this sort of way that isn't super tangible, but in very broad, ominous tone, saying, it's over for everybody. And Excalibur last week, it's a whole different world. Everything has changed. It's like, well, you don't have to let him in the building. He tried to kill Danielson. He's vowing. I mean, I don't know. It's just none of it holds up to any kind of storytelling scrutiny. It's all about the vibes and the feel, but you can't explain it in a logical way. And I think that undercuts people getting invested in it. And I think that's why NXT, NXT is growing because they're on CW, but obviously that's where the big jump came from. But that's why fewer people are attending AEW. It's one of the reasons. The storylines are not where they need to be in every aspect that appeals to the broad base of fans who used to pay money to see AEW. Because they certainly have star power. I mean, they got great talent. Anyway, go ahead, Rude Dog. Yeah.
All right. So next subject. So there was a match between Sammy Guevara and Shelton Benjamin. I mean, Shelton Benjamin looked a little slow to me in the ring, even though he looked, physically fit. Mm-hmm. But it almost felt like he blew up in the ring. Mm-hmm. I don't know what
Julius Randle-like, Joel might say.
Well, don't go there. But I don't know why Sammy Guevara is still in the doghouse. Of course, Shelton Benjamin was going to get the win because he's about to wrestle Swerve soon. But, I almost feel like
Sammy's not in the doghouse. He's being used in maybe the way that he ought to be used with the depth of AEW's current roster, Rude Dog. AEW has a lot more talent than 5 years ago when AEW started. Well, I don't know. They don't have Cody. They don't have Kenny. There's certain subtractions, but they're in a good spot. And Sammy is a bland, vanilla babyface who thinks wrestling is defined by having flippy dive moments in matches and posturing for the camera. I harp on that all the time. But in his promo tonight, his vignette, he's like, I owe everything in my life, my wife and my kid and my savings in my house to AEW. So I try to give back to the fans by having memorable moments. Like, what the F? You should be trying to win matches. Like, how do we invest in somebody who wants to give us, viral moments or high spots? Of course that's true, but you don't say it on air. It doesn't fit the narrative of wrestling. Your goal is to win matches, not have people hold up scorecards like at the Olympics because you did a triple twist on the ice. And he doesn't get the wrestling business. He just doesn't. There's nothing about his character in the way he wrestles his matches that gets it. When he's been a heel, he's been annoying and he's been effective, but now they have Nick Wayne. They've got other people who can play the annoying heel. So now he's this married family guy who is there to create movement for Shelton Benjamin now. He's in the spot he deserves. He's on the doghouse. He's found his water level as a performer. I don't even know if I'm being hard on him. I think I'm just sort of I don't think he should be cut. This is a good use of him. And I think he's content to be a nice vanilla babyface who does dives and ultimately loses in 7 minutes to somebody who's on the rise.
Sammy is being booked appropriately. Yes, we are so much on the same page. We are so much on the same page, Wade.
Yeah.
For that whole promo, everything you just explained. Yes.
And Ramen Noodle says, so much for Minnesota Nice. I'm Rude Dog says
I think we're being super fair.
Yes. Yep. Standard Deviation says, it's so telling the first accolade the commentator said about Sammy after 5 years is that he was in Dynamite's first match.
That's right, against Cody. Yes.
Yeah. Here's the thing. Rude Dog, me pushing back on you aside, I think we could get more out of Sammy Guevara than AEW is, and there could be some doghouse issues there. So even though Joel, I goaded you into agreeing with me, now I'm saying I think they can get more out of Sammy than him being a jobber to the stars. I do want to stipulate to that, but he is a bland vanilla babyface. But with the right leadership, I don't think he has to be. But I would tell him, stop talking about anything but wanting to win matches. Don't posture for the camera in the middle of matches. Stop just doing dives and let's learn how to work and sell and have an ebb and flow and a story to your matches. And I think we can make this work either as a Nick Wayne style heel or as a fighting from underneath, babyface who's a family guy who people like. You don't have to just drop him on television to lose to Shelton. I'm saying there is more there, but I'm okay. I mean, this is, to me, this is at the bottom of appropriate use of him, but I think there's room to do a little bit more too, Joel.
Well, I don't know. I just agree with your earlier point that there comes a point where other people just pass you by, and how much longer are you going to try to drag them to that point of where you want them to be, until it's just they show some of their instincts. And I think that Sammy can keep improving. I think there is a better way to use him, but I think there's other younger guys who are showing more better intuition about things, and I would keep pushing them into higher positions, where I think Sammy has proven or has shown that he is very content with what he's doing. He's very happy being married to Ty Mello. He has a baby there. They posted a lot of stuff on social media for going on their vacations and stuff. Like, I think he is very content.
Yeah, and good for him.
Yeah, good for him. That's what I'm saying.
He got, if they got paid enough, and he's either set for life or set for a while, and he wants to be a dad and not have his kid grow up seeing him be a nasty jerk on TV, and he wants to do some sort of dives and not tell stories in the ring and create movement and help elevate Shelton for a bigger match next week. That's a valuable role. Everybody. Yeah. So Ramanua, by the way, says just having fun, Wade. I think you're right on the money about Sammy. Interesting from Lady B. I would believe Sammy fighting Moxley more than the Dark Order. And where's Dustin Rhodes fighting Mox? He'd be more believable too. I wish, honestly, I'd rather have Sammy standing up to Moxley and being a victim of him. But I do think they might think that could upstage a little bit what the story they're trying to tell with Daniel Garcia and Orange Cassidy, where it's another kind of lower mid to upper mid card guy in the mix, and it's like, but I mean, I kind of like that idea from Lady B. Like, if Sammy had just came out unscheduled and grabbed a microphone and said what Moxley has said and what he's doing is not this locker room. Like, you need a voice to push back on Moxley's framing of this locker room as a bunch of undisciplined people who just care about social media likes and hearts and viral numbers instead of drawing money and winning titles. Sammy Guevara can go in and go, that's not me. That's not who we are. It actually is. But again, Zach, with all due respect to you wanting inconvenient reality to make you enjoy wrestling, I'd rather have coherent, sensible storylines that breaches the masses. If there were 2 million of you, I'd be fine with, but there aren't. Because he said, I'll just throw my context. I like my storylines to have the feel of realism and not be completely fabricated. That's what Zach said in a super chat. So I'm obligated to read it and then bury it. And if Sammy had said, you know what, Mox, you're stepping up and you're saying all these things, that's not what's going on here. You're the stick in the mud. He could have been the one who said it. You're the guy who shows up backstage and acts like we're supposed to roll the red carpet out for you because you've been at that other place in big matches. And again, I don't want to go too meta with it, but that is Moxley's journey, and it plays into him being a heel. You think you're a big shot around here? Well, prove you're a big shot by beating me. I'm younger and I'm faster and I'm more athletic. I think I can beat you. And instead of attacking people from behind and throwing out plastic bags and mind effing with people and driving around in your pickup truck saying big things with eerie music that God knows who in AEW is supporting you and putting it on the air, just let's step foot in the ring and let's fight. Sammy could have been that guy, and then he falls to him. That's fine. He should. But where's that babyface stepping up and cutting that promo? And some would say Garcia's doing it. And yeah, maybe Sammy steps on Garcia's toe, going steps a little in the way of Garcia. But to me, Garcia has a higher upside than Sammy now. So Sammy should be first, then Garcia, then Orange Cassidy, and then you move to the next stage, wherever they go from there. Mm-hmm. Ruduk. And throw Dustin in there too. Lady B said Dustin can be a guy too. Dustin could be the guy going, I've been around a lot of locker rooms and I know what happens when somebody like Moxley, starts thinking they're better than everybody else. Let's band together. I'd take Dustin over Jeff Jarrett and, and Jeff's been fine, but I'd take Dustin over Jeff. I think there's a much more resonance in him being the voice of the locker room. All right, Ruduk, sorry.
All right. So, I don't know how much I'm supposed to be able to talk about this, but I'm going to talk about it anyways because it has to deal with people we've been talking about. But I work at Six Flags Great Adventure as a entertainer right now in the Fright Fest. And I'm in, I know you have a lot of New Jersey listeners and contributors. So come out and see me in the Asylum, which is known the most... scary haunt in New Jersey. But why I'm bringing it up is because the other day, MJF, Sammy Guevara, and Ty Mello walked through.
Fun.
While I was trying to scare them, and
Cool.
I have to be in character at all times. So
yeah.
So it was pretty funny to see them walk through, and
wow.
I asked them if they were my fresh meat because I play a cannibal in a insane asylum.
I enjoy haunted houses, and if you were playing a role, I could imagine being scared. I could imagine being scared by you, Rude Dog, in character. Yeah,
I'm good.
Yeah,
they put me in. This is like the best of the best, and I beat out like legit actors, which I don't have a whole lot of experience doing. But I mean, I've been on Eli Manning came through and did like a YouTube show, and like I was on with him, and I'm on a bunch of things.
So you said MJF and Sammy Guevara were two of them?
MJF, Sammy Guevara, and Ty Mello all walked through together.
So why is MJF as a heel hanging out with Sammy as a babyface? And I mean, there's kayfabe, and Bill Watts would be upset. He'd fire him.
I'm not sure.
Did it seem like one was more scared than the other, or were they just smiling their way through, or what?
They all seemed a bit. I mean, Ty probably looked more scared than anyone, but
oh, come on, MJF.
I'd love if MJF was like hiding behind Ty, or Sammy was squealing in a high-pitched, frightened voice. Anyway. All right. I don't want to get you in trouble, Rude Dog. So,
all right. Well, come on out.
Pushing. Yeah.
Find me in the cafeteria in the asylum. I dare you.
Sweet.
So, all right. So, Ricochet was talking with MVP and the crew. To me, that doesn't sound like a bad idea for Ricochet joining MVP's crew. I mean, he's always not been the best. Ricochet has never been like the best talker, and to have MVP behind him, I think would actually be pretty good. What do you think about him actually joining whatever's going on with MVP?
Joel, what do you think?
I would actually like that. I think that, Ricochet has found some good footing for himself thus far in AEW, but him being aligned with MVP and the group that he has going on there, I don't think would be a bad landing spot for him. I did like that MVP, had acknowledged, some of the history between them in WWE there. And right now MVP is kind of going around recruiting people, giving his card to different wrestlers. So, I think it remains to be seen. If anybody existing on the roster is going to join him anytime soon, because I think that Bobby Lashley making his debut is imminent and could come as soon as next week. And so I think there's going to be a lot of focus onto him. But certainly, I think that Ricochet aligning himself with him wouldn't be a bad spot. But I'm very interested in seeing how Ricochet has continued to develop, because I think he is starting to find himself and gaining more confidence as each week goes by.
Yeah. I think the Ricochet thing can go multiple directions. It's fun seeing him be slightly different than he was in WWE, but feel a little more authentic. And again, what you'd want is for Ricochet to be more embraced and seem more natural, being less. He doesn't have the WWE jump off the screen charisma unless he's in the ring doing crazy stuff. And so you'd hope AEW would be a good place for him to shine as a normal guy who dresses nice, looks like, if he walks into the nightclub, people will be like, who's that guy? He's a star. Mm-hmm. But he can be understated in his delivery and more, businesslike, matter of fact, and have aspirations, but not be over the top yelling and stuff like that. You'd want there to be a place for a character like that in AEW. But, I could see him being an effective heel too. But I think, if he sided with MVP against Will Ospreay, but if you have Shelton and Lashley, I don't know. I think it's more likely. I don't know. I'm curious, because the issue with Ricochet is, and now they're telling a story with Ospreay and Kyle Fletcher. So it's like, where does Ricochet fit in there? Fletcher's the young Fletcher's a young guy to Ospreay, and Ospreay's a young guy to Ricochet. So it's like this kind of 3-generation thing going on too. So I don't know. I'm not sure where, what kind of story arc we have with Ricochet beyond he's going to feud with Shelton and Lashley at first while Ospreay's feuding with Fletcher. I mean, that just seems like Joel's at where it's going to be at least for a few months.
Yeah, I mean, he's going to continue doing whatever he's doing right now with Takeshita because he made that appearance onto the Maple Leaf Pro Wrestling show this past weekend. So having a little bit of that cross promotion there, where they got some plugs from for TNA and AEW on those shows. So I think that's probably the next spot for him is likely a championship shot against Takeshita, probably at Full Gear.
There you go. Yeah. Lady B says, I just need Ricochet to stop saying he's out of this world in every promo. We get it, sir. Yeah, you don't want to end with like what the WWE writers assigned you or Vince McMahon assigned you to say and come across that way. Ramanudo says MVP has talked about Ricochet being an original Hurt Business choice. I think he turned them down in storyline, but apparently it was close. And Lady B adds, I saw a quote from MVP where he said he originally wanted Ricochet in the Hurt Business, but Vince said it's him or Cedric. So I'd love to see him in the group now. And I'm open to any. I mean, I think Ricochet could be a good heel. Just kind of an arrogant, semi-soft spoken. I dress well. I'm better than you guys. The problem is their in-ring style. It just that was the problem with Sammy Guevara. He was a snotty punk heel, but once he got in the ring, he was just so athletic. It was hard to, because he didn't go out and adjust his style. I mean, I go back to criticizing Sammy, but Sammy should have been bumping like crazy for baby faces and acting cocky and not pulling off his moves, or only pulling off his moves when someone cheated. But instead, he just wanted to go out there and have great athletic matches that people said fight forever and this is awesome. And it totally went against the character of the punk ass heel who people want to see get beat up. And, it just wasn't real high IQ in terms of matching, his character to his in-ring work. There were times where there were glimpses of it, and it was like, yes, more of that. And then he'd go back to wanting to do his super athletic, graceful dives, and it felt self-serving and out of step with, again, in a world where you had to draw money in order to get a paycheck, by actually selling tickets in the territory, he'd be a different wrestler today. He'd be better. But, this whole generation of wrestlers who don't feel that way, and it frustrates people in the Moxley camp. And our artwork chimed in, Rude Dog, and said, if Mox were to really say how he really feels in detail, it might backfire worse. Saying AEW has gotten silly and they're holding the title hostage till they get it together, I'll probably like them even more. That's my point is, I don't think he's that far from that message, to be honest. He's trying to kayfabe-ize it a little bit. Oh, they're celebrating when they shouldn't be, or they're partying too early. But, the dog whistle is there, that these people aren't taking seriously what needs to be done to bring AEW to the next level, and I'm gonna eliminate them one by one until they get the message. Well, it's like, that's a babyface character, and I'm gonna root for him to be violent against that if I'm hoping for AEW to grow.
Mm-hmm. He had even done things like that before, like in promos where he had alluded to things of he wanted other people to step up and do things better, where definitely it has always come across that's how he feels, that he feels like he helped to establish the company in the beginning and brought that intensity that he just innately has in his DNA as a wrestler, and he's always wanted other people to step up and get on his level. He has challenged other people in those promos, and now they're making that into this heel type character. So it is counterproductive in that way when he was saying not overtly like he is now, but similar things when he was babyface.
Standard Deviation says Pac is a better example of a flashy in-ring wrestler withholding moves to generate heat. If in 6 months we're comparing Ricochet to Sammy, then Ricochet has probably stagnated. Rude Dog, back to you.
All right. This is real quick. Brian Cage and Lance Archer seems like a pretty decent tag team that I didn't expect. Who they wrestled today just looked like the Powers of Pain. I don't even know if they said who they were, but they look like
honestly, they look like a lot of indie tag team wrestlers I saw like in the late 80s and into the 90s when I was going to a lot of indie shows back then. And there were guys who would wear makeup and have an outfit and try to be the next Road Warriors or whatever, just sort of, indie versions of the Samoan SWAT team back in the day or something like that. Was it in Continental Championship Wrestling in the late 80s? Was it the Headhunters? Was that the name of the team? They kind of reminded me of them, but I heard Gordon Soley going, the Headhunters out here with Jerry Stubbs. It was very, very much a throwback indie tag team, Rude Dog. I feel bad for them though, because if they're like, I honestly don't know their background, but if they're like featured indie wrestlers in the area and they just got squashed in like less than a minute on national TV, how are they going to be like credible when they try to, work indie shows? They just got decimated. I would have like worn a mask and dropped the gimmicks if instead of losing to those. I mean, there shouldn't be shame in losing to Brian Cage and Archer, even though they have a terrible record in AEW. But as a tag team, Joel, what do you think of them? I'm all over the place.
I do like the pairing of them. It gives them something that feels more important for them to do. I mean, like Brian Cage is a talent, but he's always just kind of, fall into the background and a lot of the stuff in ROH. He is the ROH television champion, believe it or not, at this point. But, having the association right now with Don Callis and the things that they're doing with Takeshita and Fletcher, makes
I want Callis to cut a promo and make us really care about them, though. I feel like we need that.
They're kind of they've just been added, but they almost kind of feel like the forgotten guys, even though he was, he did a little bit on commentary for them.
Briefly,
but, very briefly.
I want him to stand in the ring or stand backstage with Renee and go, these are two guys who I have been watching them, and frankly, I've seen them lose some matches I didn't think they should lose, and I am the coach who's going to give them a dominant winning record, I think when they're together, they're going to be a dominant tag team, and I'm going to lead them to tag team titles, and everybody in this company who thinks they're going to be that the tag team division is safe, it's not anymore. We're gonna completely change everything. I mean, they could be a heel opponent for Private Party next, especially if Private Party end up beating the Bucks. Cage and Archer as heels managed by Callis against Private Party. That's a good feud in the AEW universe. So, and there's other babyface teams that exist or can be put together for them. So, I like it. But yeah, let's have Callis do full-fledged. Go watch how wrestlers were introduced in territories in the 80s and the 70s. Like, watch some old footage and be excited and get people excited about it. The squash match is fine. I have no problem with that. Somebody was earlier in the chat was ripping on the squash match. It's like squash matches absolutely serve a purpose. So beating people up is not a bad thing when it takes less than a minute. I don't get anybody having an issue with that when you're trying to establish a new team. I thought that it worked with Nia Jax when she came back, and when WWE introduces new talent, they do that sometimes, and I think it makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, establishing them as a tag team. I like what this does for Archer because he is again another talent where they really haven't found anything for him to do. He's been the ultimate gatekeeper. Dustin Rhodes. They're the ultimate. They get the win on Collision just to lose on Dynamite. And so I'd like to see, him doing something more prominent. But to your point, it's like if you are going to do something with them and be serious about it, really give some more heat to it and utilize Don Callis, who is one of your absolute best talkers on there. I mean, put Don Callis more over the show and establish him as this guy who's going to give the secret sauce to these different wrestlers, where he sees things in them and it can promote that and talk about it.
Yep. Well put. Well said. Rude Dog.
All right. Well, different subject. Very last thing. So what do you think of Daddy Magic's commentating going on? I was glad to see he was rocking the 8-ball jacket, which, if people don't know, it was this like hideous jacket from the 90s that was even like referenced in Seinfeld, where Elaine's boyfriend Putty would wear it and stuff like that. But it's just, I don't know. I get a kick out of the guy. What do you think about Daddy Magic?
I didn't think he stood out on tonight's show as a color commentator. I kind of forgot he was there, and he's really good on commentary. So I don't know if he felt like he needed to lean back a little bit and not inject himself, and maybe he overdid it. But when he's been doing mostly Rampage, he's been good. Like, he's been better than Jericho was. Jericho was, So I was kind of I wasn't like disappointed. He didn't detract from the show. It's just I wanted him to. It seemed like he was a new guy who wasn't sure what to say some of the time, and I'm not quite sure why. Was that your experience, Joel, when you think back on it?
Absolutely. I mean, since he debuted, he's turned down the shtick a lot, and I do appreciate that because I've been critical of him in the past of being like a parody of an independent wrestler, which is part of what he did before.
Yeah.
And he is a very smart guy, and he's been very good at commentary at times.
Yeah.
But there was just one moment where they cut to the commentary table and they showed him, like you mentioned, Rude Dog wearing the jacket. And I'm like, man, it just felt like the commentary team just was very much in the background, that there was nothing that really stood out about it. And maybe it is the absence of not having Taz on the show, where he is a highlight of listening to it. But for whatever reason, that this on tonight, it just felt like the commentary team as a whole just very much was in the background and nothing really stood out about it.
Yeah. All right. Rude Dog, anything else for us?
I think that's all. Thank you very much. Great to talk to y'all. Have a good night.
Appreciate your patience. Yep. Always good hearing from you. Six Flags. Go see if you can find Rude Dog.
I love that.
I did too.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I love it.
And he saw MJF there. I mean, that's awesome.
Yeah, I was hoping for a story that MJF was like super scared or I don't know, or he was a jerk to everybody. Like that'd be awesome for his character. If MJF was in character, just being like, y'all are fakes, and I don't know, you kids, I don't know. He could be yelling at kids saying this is all. I don't know. Anyway. All right, a couple emails, and we'll and Joel, if there's anything you want to bring up that we haven't by the time we get done with emails, let me know. We won't go too much longer here, but John in Tennessee says 2 years in at House of Black doing squash matches on the main show. All three of these guys are being wasted. Do you think Tony Khan should just give Malachi Black his release? He hasn't elevated him at all, and he's not using him to get his younger talent over. So what's the point of keeping him? Thanks for all the great content. Everyone go VIP. I mean, sometimes having somebody around who isn't being used well is, I use the analogy like when Kenny Omega comes back, if his heart's not in becoming a money character on a weekly wrestling TV series, and he's just going to kind of wear the leather jacket from his peak in New Japan 7 years ago, but not actually, contribute it, not show up and seem like he's really motivated to help elevate AEW out of a tough spot that increasingly tough spot they're in terms of selling tickets. And if he's going to show up and just be the same old Kenny, he's eating up minutes. He's Julius Randle again, Joel, instead of Nas. let's get Nas some minutes, or Garza,
let's get Garza out there.
Who's our tall rookie who's having a great preseason? Who our first round up a couple years ago.
Leonard Miller, Josh Minot.
Yeah, Josh Minot. Yeah.
The lawnmower. Josh Minot. Yeah,
the coach has been loving him, and he had a fun. His cheerleading on his react. He was in the playoffs last year. He had the best reactions to anything good that was like when there's a shot Rudy made when he was like jumping backwards a fadeaway and it went in Game 7 against Denver, and he was just like It's like they always cut to him at courtside.
Yeah.
But he's had a hell of a summer, and coaches like give him minutes anyway. What are we talking about? Oh yeah. Well, I even sidetracked to Kenny and the questions about, I want to circle back to Malachi. Sometimes having a big name who's just taking up space is worse than not having him there. And because it is this sort of like, oh yeah, he's here. Why isn't he doing anything? And then someone in the chat earlier said, oh, he's holding Brody King back because he's kind of like this sidekick to Malachi. Then you got Buddy Matthews. It's just like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. In winning they won a squash match simply as a vehicle so that there would be a reason to cross paths with Adam Cole backstage. That's why they got a squash match on Dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
It was a means to the ends of Buddy Matthews saying, I want to face you next week, Cole, and having a confrontation. It's a weird reason to have a match on TV, but that's kind of why they did it. I mean, did they promote Collision tonight? They promoted Dynamite. Next two shows.
I don't remember anything being promoted for Collision. And I think it's going to be in Cedar Rapids, Iowa. I want to say for next week. And so I don't know anything that's coming up for it. But yeah, they're definitely adding stuff for the Fright Night. They're trying to build some other matches. There's definitely effort being made to try and get some other matches built up for some of these upcoming shows when they're kind of back to that period where, they're kind of in that lull before they get to the next pay-per-view, because we are exactly a month out from Full Gear, and for whatever reason we can't announce any of the matches for the show until we get to 2 weeks before or the 1 week ahead of time.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for Malachi Black, I mean, Tony has had a shift in where, he's not wanting to release these guys and reward them for bad behavior or not wanting to play ball. And so, you can fall in the category of a Ricky Starks where, he says he's ready to go. He wants to wrestle, but, there's been intentions of him wanting to leave, being friends with Cody Rhodes. And, so he's just not being used. And, or you can be in the category of Malachi Black, where it's just kind of, you see him, but that there's really not going to be really any sort of progress outside of maybe a hardcore match being put in the main event of Collision. There's not really going to be much upward mobility there. And yeah, Brody King is somebody who is hungry, who wants it. And he's, in the stable with another guy who wants to get out of there.
Yeah. All right. I would be fine if Tony Khan released Malachi Black. If he's not gonna, if you don't have leverage to get him to do jobs to young guys, then just cut him. I mean, just why is he eating up space? Just let Brody King do something more relevant. Let Buddy Matthews spend more time adding even more needless muscle to his frame. I don't know. All right. JB in Detroit. Next, is Penelope Ford a high enough level for Jamie Hayter to be wrestling at this moment? Hayter's coming off a big return at Wembley and winning a feud with Saraya, who is at least a big name. It seems odd to follow that up with Penelope Ford, who's been out of action 2 years, as she mentioned tonight. She also mentioned that on Collision on Saturday, where the full promo aired. Jamie Hayter's acting, by the way, wasn't good on Collision. Her reacting to Penelope on Collision was not great. Just kind of cartoonish and over that. She was playing to the last row, and there's nobody in the last row in that building, so stop doing that. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't think a lot of people are super into Penelope Ford. I think Penelope's sort of like this annoying, snotty, I'm blaming you type heel. It's a little generic for pro wrestling these days. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it's great momentum generator for Jamie Hayter, but maybe it's just a bridge to fill time until they get her to somebody who, when they're ready, who's a bigger name. What do you think, Joel?
Yeah, that's what I think it is at this point, because we haven't seen Penelope Ford, like you said, for 2 years, that you kind of forget that she's on the roster. I mean, it sounded like there was some injury that was preventing her from being able to wrestle, but Penelope, she was athletic. That was kind of her thing, was that she could do all those backflips. My biggest memory of her was on that All In show when she used to be with Joey Janela, and she did kind of all those flips and stuff. And that's kind of, what got her noticed on the independent scene. But, for Jamie Hayter, she's come back, and, that's another one of those scenarios of they come back and they kind of do a little bit of something, but then they don't really have much follow up for it. And the women's division, I thought that they were gaining a lot of momentum, over the summer, especially the stuff they were doing with Mariah May and Toni Storm. And now it's kind of fallen back to the period of, that they just have spots on the show, that it doesn't really feel like anything big is being built to. Sure, they're trying to have Anna Jay, who hasn't done a whole lot, as being the opponent right now for Mariah May, and you have Chris Statlander, who just all of a sudden is a babyface after doing this big heel turn against Willow Nightingale, and now she's going up against right now Camille, and then eventually Mercedes. But it just doesn't feel like they have much big things going on in the women's division, and Jamie Hayter is a victim of that.
All right, JB says, I love the triple combination moves that House of Black have as a trios team. They look so smooth, effective, and it looks like it really hurts. I wish that they would have House of Black stand up to Moxley's crew, but where do they think this Cole Matthews match for next week is actually headed? Proving Cole is fragile doesn't really seem like motive enough. No. Matthews saying, I want to prove I don't know. I thought that was kind of heelish. I want to prove you're fragile. It puts Cole in a position of fans thinking he's in jeopardy of getting hurt, and Matthews looks, intimidating.
I think he is.
Yeah. I might find that out in person after all my shots at all his musculature hampering his in-ring skill. Jimmy Del Rey from the Heavenly Bodies once chased after me in my car with a beer bottle in his hand. He was mad at what he's like, that's Wade Keller. And he had a beer bottle. He came out of a hotel and was, I don't know, he might have had a few.
That's why you don't come to many independent shows and live shows these days. These people are going to come chasing after you outside.
Yeah, it hasn't happened much, but there's some stories. So
you'll hear more about it on the VIP side of things.
That's right. Oh, for sure. Yes.
Yep.
So House of Black standing up to Moxley's crew would be great. I mean, if they told that story well, I mean, you could have the announcers going, House of Black, they haven't exactly been endearing themselves to fans, but they've been here a long time, and they've have Malachi cut a promo like that says something that isn't just word salad of. Yes, that'd be great in a perfect world, but I don't think it's going to happen.
No.
Yeah. No. Number 3, where does Kyle O'Reilly fit into the reuniting of Cole with Roddy in the Kingdom? Kyle was shown viewing the event on a monitor backstage. Is he for or against this reconciliation? That was brought up earlier. We didn't respond to it, I don't think. He's got a history with Cole and Strong, so it makes sense that they would cut to him, but I think we're meant to wonder where he stands. Yep. But obviously, do you think it's like, I've kind of avoided what's going to happen with this, because I'm sort of like, my stance is I wish they just would have moved on from it. And Taven and Bennett, I think, really, were a step back for the whole MJF Cole storyline, all that. But and Roderick Strong's been, he's a great wrestler, but a little more comedy relief and not really a main guy for Cole. So wherever this goes, where does Kyle O'Reilly fit in as a partner for Cole, taking on Taven and Bennett, or what?
Yeah, because that was my initial thought is, Adam Cole is the one who's standing there when they're like, oh, come out here, MJF. And Adam Cole is the one who stands in front of those 3 guys, and they kind of fall to the background. It's like, oh man, are they teasing another turn of this where it's just not something that we need, that he needs right now, And
he's been Briscoe's buddy. It just feels like, just move on. Don't get back into this.
Yeah, it's just another one of those things that they just need to move on from. I did not like that reuniting between the two, between the Undisputed Kingdom and Adam Cole. Even though it is a continuation of the story, I just think that that is an aspect that you could have moved on from. And Kyle O'Reilly is intrigued to see where all his friends, if this all works out for them. So
Camille versus Statlander has me very intrigued for next week as a female Haas matchup. Yeah, I thought, good stare down. I thought they built it up nicely. It's something to look forward to.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Number 5, I like the idea of Kyle Fletcher going completely unhinged and shaving his head in the ring as a way to further distance himself from Ospreay. I do ultimately wonder how AEW plans to pay off Ospreay versus the new Callis family, particularly Fletcher. I assume Fletcher's going to shave his head, but if he just wrestled with his hair as he left it, with a couple 2-3 streaks of bald, with a bunch of disheveled hair otherwise, that'd be kind of, you put him over his craze to get him some weird looks. You'd have to wear a baseball cap or something all the time in public to not get weird looks. So we'll see. As much as I thought the hair was a good look, maybe it doesn't quite have the edge to it, and being bald will be a good look, or shaved real close. We'll see. I'll give it a chance, but at first I was like, no, that's distinct. Now you're going to look like everybody else, but maybe he won't. Is Kip Sabian going to join Christian and the Patriarchy? They have to do something with Sabian rather than have him nebulously floating around TV any random week, as it seems like he's been doing for years now. I assume that Sabian is going to be used to replace Killswitch, who's been out for a while with a severe illness. Were you a little surprised that Sabian looked like he was, being subservient and wanting to align with Christian?
No, not surprised. That's kind of where I thought this was always headed, is that he they were going to try and tell some story of him wanting to be a part of them, because Kip Sabian is, he's Kip Sabian. What are you going to do? Just beat him and he goes away? You got to tell, if you're going to utilize and use the TV time that you have, you would think that they'd have a bigger story to tell than just beating him and him going away. So yeah, it makes sense for him to join that group.
I like the idea of Hook feuding with the Patriarchy. Hopefully this leads to the return of Samoa Joe and the reuniting of Shibata to compete with the Patriarchy.
I hope so. Yep. I want Samoa Joe back.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And Samoa Joe and Hook as a tag team against Archer and Cage. That can.
Yep. That'd be awesome. Yep.
I like to call back to Shelton HBK super kick spot from the mid-aughts they had, the Sammy Shelton match tonight. Yeah. I like the advancement that we're getting with Orange Cassidy character layering. I think it's realistic and powerful. His reactions going head-to-head with Mox's crew and the obvious dangers involved. I like the pep talk that Chucky T gave to Orange as he was in desperate need of, that he has beaten Mox and he can again. Attacking Chuck Taylor at the show's end was also a great touch. I mean, I don't know how many people care that much about Chuck Taylor, but if you don't know him or you don't care about him, I mean, maybe this is the most you care about him because he did get brutalized with the chair. Did they go back and forth between saying it was his ankle and his neck on commentary? I thought
they said I thought they said maybe his knee at one point.
Oh God, maybe they said all three. I don't know.
Maybe they said all three. Yeah. No, I do like the story that they've been trying to tell with that. By showing him earlier in the show and then having him come back at the end there.
Yeah.
I think what they've been doing with Orange to try and build him up is good. It's just as we've discussed, is he the one to cut that right promo to defending AEW? I'm not sure. I know they're going to have a very good match with each other. They've had several very good matches. They've been good opponents for one another, especially with Orange playing that babyface against Mox's heel. We saw that at All Out 2023, and that was very well done. And so I think that they can duplicate something similar here, but I just don't know if he can give that exact babyface rallying cry that that they need at this point.
Tony Khan, I mean, I've heard it forever, and I mean, it's been obvious. Tony Khan's a big fan of Orange Cassidy, and what he brings is professional behind the scenes, his in-ring work, but his character is, kind of indie opening match comedy, and he's grown beyond that. But that is an aspect of his character. So to tell a story that causes people look at him differently than they had been is needed if he's going to be the initial key opposition to who Moxley is now presenting himself as. So. I mean, I think it's one of the better stories they're doing. At first, the Jerry Lynn thing just felt like kind of out of nowhere, and then by the end of the show, with him at ringside, it made more sense watching Moxley helplessly what Moxley was doing. So, and Cassidy's been around a long time. He's the, I think people like him and see him as a representative of AEW almost as much as anybody on that roster, given what they've watched him do in that company. All right, almost at the end of the email. I think more recently AEW is having a problem with too many wrestlers saying I had nothing before AEW came along type promos. They really need to use these more sparingly going forward and only when it makes sense. And this is my argument about injecting realism too much. Everybody's got a story. Most wrestlers did not start off rich. They don't have family members who gave them a push. They toiled on the indie scene, but that doesn't have to be just because it's true. Doesn't mean that has to be the thrust of your character's presentation. And in fact, it can... I mean, when we talk about ticket sales, people want to pay tickets for people who are big stars, and AEW has too many people who are just like, I'm so thankful for a job because if not for this, I'm a talentless, homeless person who wouldn't be able to afford groceries. Like, I mean, what would I be doing with my life if it weren't for Tony Khan or weren't for AEW? I mean, it's like, it is. It's they go to it too often. I mean, Darby's gone there too often, and anyway, others did on the show too. So.
Others have, but that has been a criticism of WWE in the past, that they used to do that a lot more. And I remember specifically listening to a lot of your shows that was critical of that it was very much like, oh, I'm just so thankful to have a job to be on TV, where it's like, no, you're supposed to be promoting these big, huge stars who, that this is, that they the promotion needs to have these guys, not that these guys need the promotion. You need to change that narrative around.
Yeah. Superstars. There's a reason Vince McMahon, I mean, multiple reasons, but one of the reasons
lowercase
everybody. Well, no, this is capital S. Well, it works both ways. But the reason Vince McMahon did the capital S superstars, branding every pro wrestler as superstar, is he wanted to create the impression that you should pay to see these people because they're all superstars. And then it turned into the, kind of the substitute name for pro wrestler, because he didn't like the word pro. He didn't like the term pro wrestler either. He wanted to be sports entertainment. But there is something about that sort of Orwellian repetition, of superstar, where now they seem like big deals compared to just, these indie wrestlers who Tony Khan took out of the back of sleeping in the back of their cars and homeless shelters. I mean, it can be. I mean, Jamie Hayter's like, I've wrestled in front of,
yes, in front of 20 people, 20 guys or something. Yeah, 20 drunk guys.
Yeah, at community centers. And I just like, that doesn't sound like a great life. And so, yeah, I mean, I'm with JB. I think that can be one or two wrestlers' character, and we should hear that promo once or twice every 2 years. It shouldn't be something we can rattle off a list of every month. Finally, does Private Party win the tag titles from the Bucks, or do they split up? If they split up, do they have any futures as a singles act? It was clear Quinn and Cassidy weren't on the same page, when that stipulation was made. As I always loved the show and Go VIP. If they're going to win the tag titles, I could have done without the was it Cassidy who issued the challenge and Mark Quinn was like, what are you doing? I like if you're not going to break them up, don't do it. I don't think they should break them up. Unless maybe one of them's going to join MVP. And then the other can stay babyface and like team with Sammy Guevara or something. I mean, if they do, I don't know. I'm just spitballing.
I don't know. I wouldn't break up another tag team in their division that's really lacking of a lot of named teams that have some credibility, and they've built some good credibility for Private Party. With the stuff that they've been doing with them recently. So yeah, I could definitely see them winning the tag titles next week because we haven't seen Okada for a little bit now. Maybe the Young Bucks also kind of go away for a little bit. While Moxley takes over. I don't know.
Rude Dog just sent me photos of him in character at Six Flags, and I'm genuinely a little scared. It'd freak me out, Hendrick, if I saw you look, you're very believable in your makeup.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I think Private Party's been a success in this. I mean, I was skeptical whether they would, but I think they've been good. So I think just it'd be like you don't have to swerve us. There doesn't have to be a misdirection. Oh, they're not going to get along and they're upset. Like just tell the story straightforward sometimes.
Yeah.
You can act surprised, but then go, yeah, if that's what it takes. If that's what it takes to get a title shot, we're confident. If we can't beat you, we spent 5 years spinning our wheels. If that's what it takes to to get a shot at the tag titles, and we can't do it, then we got to figure out something else to do. But I'd just rather have. I know they want to come up with some reason to give them a title shot, but maybe just have Christopher Daniels announce that you guys won enough matches, you get a title shot. We don't need it to be, whatever. The wrestlers coming up with the reasons. Chris Jericho won the ROH World Title ladder match. It's a thing that happened on the show, and we are not getting it till 2.5 hours in, Joel.
Because I was like, I want to talk about that. And, some of the immediate reaction I saw on Twitter about it was like, man, these guys are going out there. They're having a very dangerous ladder match in the middle of the show for the ROH World Championship. Chris Jericho wins it, and people are probably going to forget about it. And here we are on this show. Nobody even asked about it.
Yeah.
And we're 2.5 hours in, and now we're finally talking about this. I mean, yeah, it was weird because I could have sworn that I thought after the first segment, or maybe it was the first match, Shelton and Sammy Guevara, I thought they had a graphic on the screen that said up next was the trios tag match and of the Private Party and Daniel Garcia versus Young Bucks and Jack Perry, and then that didn't happen until the main event because I thought it just logically that ladder match was going to be in the main event spot. And they just had it in the middle of the show here, and you have Chris Jericho winning back the ROH World Championship, in a match that I thought was needlessly dangerous, just a ladder match of, they've been criticized at times for, having the referees holding those ladders where they're like, oh, it just doesn't look good as a spot.
Yeah.
But man, Mark Briscoe was standing up on that super tall ladder. And I was so fearful for him because I didn't see anybody holding that ladder. And he knew it too, jumping off of there, that I'm like, that ladder's going to kick backwards and he could slip, break his leg there. And yeah, it was not a graceful jump down there. I mean, that was, man, it's just kind of a match that was, there's some good action in there, but yeah, easily forgotten about afterwards.
It felt legitimately high risk.
Oh, yeah. That felt like a very needlessly dangerous match in the middle of the show that has just been forgotten.
And, like, how prestigious is a title if it changes hands that way? Like, it's one thing to have but it has the legacy that title has. And to have, Big Bill carry Jericho up the stairs and have just the no rules aspect of it with all this interference. It's just what a farcical, like, step back for a second. Like, what does it mean to be a champion if as an organization you sanction a match where anybody can interfere? This is how stupid triple threat matches are in WWE too. Anyone can interfere, anyone can use any object, and the title's on the line, and however there's nothing we can do about it. Well, you could not you could decide not to put a title on the line when there's farcical rules that allow anybody to interfere and do anything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just well, we can't have Jericho beat Mark Briscoe. That'd be heels need heat, so they have to cheat to win. Well, yeah, but your titles need to have some semblance of credibility, and your promotion needs to have some, convey some semblance of having a competency and coherence to how it books title matches. And it's I don't know. I mean, Jericho won a title. No, he didn't. He was the victor in a match in which he had nothing to do with winning, and now he represents ROH as a world champion. And it'd be one thing if the announcers were outraged about it, but they're not. They're like, oh, well, that's, I don't know. It's just, you do things because they're done, but every once in a while, and that should be that way in life. That's why, as a kid, when the power would go out, like I'd question my whole life because all my routine was broken up. Like if the power went out as a kid, I'd be like, I've got a flashlight and I'm going to I can't play video games or watch TV. So I'm just going to do a puzzle under a flashlight. And what do you do? And your whole life is, or you go outside on a nice day. You're like reevaluate your life because we get so in routines. And wrestling bookers should every once in a while just step back and go, let's reevaluate why we're doing everything we're doing. And maybe just because it's been done and it's what we do and it's an easy thing to do to fill a TV. Maybe we shouldn't do this anymore just because it's the way we've been doing it for a while. Having no rules title matches is stupid. It undercuts any portrayal or presupposition or prestige of a championship. Copyright Paul Heyman when you can win it that way. It's just stupid. I do it. I think it cuts it. It's the same thing about the suffocation angle. It eats people don't understand. You don't know what you're missing until you don't know what you're missing by not having more logic and structure to a company. But it's not like I'm a stickler for following the rules about everything, and that's the only way it can be done. My argument is that's the best way for heels to get heat. That's the best way for titles to mean something, as if cheating is not something that's just sort of sanctioned and shrugged off by announcers. Announcers should be outraged at cheating because otherwise what's the point of cheating? There's no heel heat. So then it just becomes an escape hatch finish because you don't want to do clean finishes.
Yep. Just, what's just so weird is you look at the roster, you look at all the people who are holding the championships, everyone is a heel. They have all heel champions, and now they're just putting another one onto Chris Jericho, where it's like, man, I understand it's kind of this dark cloud looming storyline that they have, but there is also just this emptiness to the promotion by having these lack of babyface champions. That's someone you can get behind. Mark Briscoe was somebody that was getting a lot of people behind him, that he was able to establish himself in the promotion outside of his brother, even though that, they always kind of bring the storyline back to that. And they did that again in this case when him wearing the shirt of Jay Briscoe. And, it's just, I don't know. I don't agree with the decision of going back to this and, trying to, now they've given another reason for Chris Jericho to keep appearing on television, and now he holds the ROH World Championship.
Well, he can go away and just go to ROH then. That's what some people who are not happy with this character are hoping.
I don't think so.
So we did have a major opening segment with Hangman and Jay White. We didn't cover that either. What did we talk about? We just the first hour we practically haven't covered.
We talked about Julius Randle.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, it's crazy. Well, the Kyle Fletcher thing was a big part of the first hour, and Sammy Shelton was too. So, but a couple key segments we didn't talk about. Any thoughts on what they're doing with Jay White and Hangman Page's character, Joel?
I still continue to like Hangman Page's character, but there is that element of where he does come out and just start yelling. Where I think that if you were to tone that down a little bit, and have more of a softer tone, and then it kind of raises to that anger of something, I think that could mean a lot more than when he just starts out as, going off about something. Even though I still like what he's doing, I think that, there is a lot of heat still behind that character. But this segment was kind of just your, wrestling booking 101, paint by numbers stuff. And I don't think there was anything wrong with it. I don't think it totally stood out, but, you're getting Jay White into this. He's working as a babyface, but it's still weird to me. It's still bizarre because, everything about his look and his demeanor is heelish, but, people like him. And so now he's been put into the babyface position.
Yeah, no, I know. And he hasn't really, given a mission statement or reframed himself in a way. And it does feel like Hangman and Jay White's in its own separate universe from what's going on with Moxley. And,
it does, yeah.
Yeah, and the Don Callis family and Ospreay. It's just there's a lot of things kind of in their own universe while this other overarching storyline is going on. It feels a little weird.
Yeah,
all
the
right.
Swerve thing too is very much like on its own planet,
Yeah, like you'd like, if Hangman was a babyface, he'd certainly be stepping up. If Kenny was healthy, he'd be stepping up. If Cody was around, he'd be a perfect person to oppose Moxley. None of those things are at the moment happening. Jericho's a babyface, could be somebody who would step up. That could be a way to turn him back. But instead, the people who Will Ospreay, Swerve Strickland, they're top baby faces, and they're walled off from Moxley right now, doing their own thing. So, and Darby's not around, and I mean they'll get there, but it feels weird in the meantime not being there. All right, Joel, we're gonna anything else you want to bring up? Otherwise, we're gonna show Rude Dog in character. I got photos.
Oh man, let's just get to that.
I agree. Yep.
Yeah,
so here we go, everybody. Hide if this is on the screen and the kids are around, you might want to cover their eyes.
You've been warned.
Here we go.
Oh.
And
wow.
Look at that. Now, if that guy showed up in a haunted house at Six Flags, I'd be like, okay, I don't know that this guy's on staff. I think he just infiltrated, and he's about to pull me through some door and pull me into a back of a pickup or a van, and I'll never be seen again by my family.
Yeah, I assure you, MJF was terrified walking through this haunted house. When he saw a Rude Dog, game over.
Rude Dog in the chat says, F yeah. Dan Carroll, this is before I show the photos. I can see why I'd be scared of Rude Dog. So anyway. All right, cool. Joel, tell people about your show. I threw the graphic up earlier, talked about it briefly, but talk about you and Greg and what you do every week.
Yeah, we have the All Elites Conversation Club podcast, which we record those typically on Friday mornings, and right now we're trying to line up the time that's going to work best for us, and we'll still get one out this week. We always have very fun conversations talking about AEW because we both have very different perspectives on it. You heard a lot of the stuff of what I'm thinking, what's going on here, and Greg is very much going to be on the other side of the spectrum, and so it leads to some very fun.
Naturally, not in a contrived. It makes
not in a contrived way at all.
Yeah.
We both, of course, we're rooting for AEW. We want to see the best stuff. We're trying to pull the best out of the promotion, but Greg always makes a very good case on the other side of things as to finding the positive in a lot of AEW. And so because we have those different perspectives, different timelines of watching wrestling, it leads to these very fun conversations of stuff. Over the past few weeks, we had Zach Barber step in. So a huge thank you to him for stepping in and being a part of that show. He has always been a regular fixture here, giving his thoughts on AEW and also a big part of the trivia stuff, which is on this era of the mid 90s. That is a very much dark spot for both Greg and myself. So it's fun to see if we can get any of those trivia questions correct. But yeah, no, it's a great show. It provides another alternate perspective than a lot of the shows that you're going to hear about AEW on PWTorch. So very much different from what you're going to hear from Rich or from Todd or Wade's show.
All right, I got to go do Wordle or my streak will end. Thanks, everybody. It's up against midnight here. Thanks, everybody, for listening. And go VIP if you like what we are doing here. Just a way to show support. You can do it just for that reason, but we'll give you a lot in return. 7-day free trial over at Patreon, patreon.com/PWTorch VIP. You can search PWTorch VIP in Spotify and get a 7-day free trial within Spotify of our VIP lineup. Get full VIP membership through other options, Apple Podcasts, compatibility also, and access to our archives, pwtorch.com/go VIP. Thanks, Joel. Thanks, everybody. We'll talk to you next time.